What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was a Kryptonian in Marvel Part 6. Now let's begin. Fast forward 2 months. Naruto was on his way to meet Felicia, who had fully embraced her role as the Black Cat. Despite still being in the learning phase, it was understandable, considering she had recently been shot while attempting to steal from Wilson Fisk. She has some knowledge about Naruto after stumbling upon Jean, Hera, and their intimate encounter. During her jog, she attempted to discreetly visit him after finding out his address. At that moment, it dawned on him that he should prioritize completing his house in a timely manner. Naruto spotted her perched on a building, blood seeping from a bullet wound. As he approached, she immediately recognized him, having only left school a few hours ago. It seemed that school was becoming increasingly troublesome for her lately. Naruto has already dispatched a probe, but to his astonishment, it returned to Mark's multiverse. It appears that it landed in close proximity to the Marvel multiverse, prompting Naruto to launch it again from his own multiverse. "You are here," she said, clearly in discomfort as blood trickled from her mouth. "I am here now," Naruto said to her, observing the extent of the damage and wincing at the harm inflicted on her organs. Naruto stooped down and removed the shattered bullet, ensuring that she fell into a peaceful slumber beforehand. She is dressed in a self-made suit and wearing a domino mask, which is stained with blood. Additionally, she has a cut on her forehead and appears to be concussed. He completed the task efficiently, but unfortunately, she is still unconscious due to blood loss. He skillfully summoned water and carefully cleaned her, demonstrating his professionalism. Naruto then carried her in a gentle, bridal style and effortlessly opened a portal using only his index finger, showcasing his mastery. After much practice and perseverance, he was finally able to achieve this feat. Naruto entered the fortress and carefully placed her in a bed in the medical area. He instructed a medical droid to attend to her needs. She has developed a strong friendship with Hera, but Jean is still upset about her engaging in inappropriate behavior in the school restroom, to which she apologized. "Excuse me, but there seems to be an anomaly over the area known as the Bermuda Triangle," a professional voice reported. "Great," Naruto exclaimed as he opened another portal to it, and he quickly identified what was happening. The Bifrost. It's interesting to note that instead of touching the ground, it actually drops someone into the water. Naruto pursued the individual, and with his keen perception, he immediately recognized her identity. He noticed her condition immediately, her emaciated frame, with bones and veins visible through her torn clothes. Blood seeped from cuts, staining her garments, while her swollen eyes remained shut. Upon closer inspection, he observed bruises on her arms and feet, evidence of the shackles that had bound her. She is dressed in green attire, although at this point, they might as well be red due to the amount of blood. Her hair is disheveled, stained with mud and dried blood, but the green headpiece on her head unmistakably identifies her. Amora, the Enchantress. Naruto was completely baffled by the sudden turn of events. He couldn't fathom why she had been expelled from her own home. Determined to uncover the truth, he resolved to inquire about it once she regained consciousness. As he started tending to her injuries, he couldn't help but notice that his healing techniques were not as effective as usual. To his surprise, he observed a faint glow emanating from her back. He skillfully opened a portal to the med bay and carefully set her down, gently turning her to her side as she groaned in pain. Naruto noticed the presence of cuts on her body, suggesting that she had been whipped, with even some small pieces of flesh torn away. Naruto pondered as he attempted to heal her once more, noticing a series of glowing runes on her back. They hinder her ability to recover, but one of them compels her to remain alive by utilizing all the body's resources to prevent death. There is a restriction that prevents her from using magic, and a rune that amplifies pain based on the amount of magic he can sense from it. She was charged an exorbitant amount, causing her to experience intense pain. Naruto defeated all of his opponents, leaving her in a state of shock as her injuries gradually took their toll. He does his best to provide her with healing, even arranging for a droid to bring supplements to aid in her recovery. "What happened to you?" Naruto pondered silently as he delved into her thoughts, seeking her most recent memories. Naruto's point of view. So, she is an extraordinary being who descended from a celestial energy known as the Bifrost, inspired by Norse mythology. The reason for her appearance resembling that of a bloodbath is due to the unfortunate circumstances of her being subjected to torture and subsequently forced to leave her homeland. "Have I accurately summarized all of the details?" Felicia remarked as she observed Amora's attire, a hospital gown that, in my opinion, contains an excessive amount of vibranium. I pondered the consequences of having an excess of vibranium. Yes, but she will likely need a few days to recover, I inform her, relieved to see that Amora's condition has finally stabilized. What plans do you have in place for Jean and Hera once they discover the situation? She inquired with a mischievous glance in my direction. There's nothing to hide here, but it's clear that certain individuals are attempting to gain control over me or even eliminate me, I informed her, expressing my frustration at their foolishness with a sigh. Will you be eliminating them? She inquired quietly, her gaze fixed on the ground. Perhaps, if necessary, I will, I honestly informed her. The gods from Marvel can be quite challenging to handle, especially considering what Hera has shared about the ongoing activities of certain pantheons. It is interesting to note that the Shinto pantheon played a significant role in the outbreak of World War II, resulting in the emergence of Hydra, which has proven to be quite troublesome to handle. Are they deserving of it? She inquired of me. I understand her perspective, as I previously informed her about Hera's origins in the Greek pantheon. She inquired about the others. Some of them do, Zeus definitely along with many others, I replied to her, expressing my disapproval upon discovering that certain gods do not rely on faith energy. Instead, they draw sustenance from the actions of humanity. For instance, the gods of war experienced a significant increase in power during the world wars, and they attempted to prolong this period of heightened influence. Felicia, there are certain individuals who should be held accountable for their actions. They have willingly chosen their path, and if they pose a threat to us, I will take the necessary measures to protect us, I said to her. She remained quiet for a period of time. And although I am intrigued by the idea of delving into her mind, she restrained myself because I was not Xavier, but the temptation was certainly present. With grace, she rose and approached me, her gaze meeting mine before she leaned in and bestowed a tender kiss upon me. I reciprocated the kiss, as I was aware that Hera and Jean had given their consent. However, they had attempted to conceal this information from me as part of a prank. It's worth noting that for someone with the ability to hear conversations from space, such secrecy is essentially impossible. We sat closely together, embracing each other with a sense of intimacy. Our connection grew stronger as our lips met, and we shared a passionate kiss, expressing our desires through soft sounds of pleasure. She started moving against me, causing a dampness to form on my pants as I became aroused. We kissed for approximately 5 minutes, and then we took a break so she could catch her breath. She gently pressed her forehead against mine. Would you go to great lengths for me? She asked, breathless and locking eyes with me. Certainly, I informed her, despite not having the same level of closeness as I did with Jean and Hera. I do have a certain level of affection towards her. Immediately after agreeing, we shared another passionate kiss. As I stood, she wrapped her legs around me and firmly held onto my hair. I carefully placed her onto one of the beds. As we lay down on the bed, I could sense her desire as she eagerly pulled at my shirt. In a passionate moment, I removed my shirt while she expressed her pleasure, running her hands across my chest and back. I gently placed a hand on her head, maintaining our intimate connection as we continued to share passionate kisses. She tore her own shirt while I touched one of her breasts through her bra. I moved away from her as she was breathing heavily, which reminded me that although I don't require breathing, she does. She kissed me once more, attempting to remove my pants, until a pained cough interrupted us. Our attention shifted to Amore, who appeared visibly uncomfortable. She had impressive skills in moving objects, but she seemed determined to avoid making eye contact with us. Excuse me, may I inquire about your identities? Amora inquired of us. Naruto Pav. I am currently observing Amora and Felicia enjoying their meal at a table in the fortress, as we patiently await Jean and Hera's arrival through teleportation. So you're the one they're after, Amora said between bites of her meal. Yes, I suppose, I replied wearily. Despite having dealt with Zeus, it seems that they still haven't grasped the concept of giving me some peace. Rest assured, I have no intention of bothering you either. May I inquire about the cause of your injuries and the presence of those mysterious symbols, considering I may have some knowledge regarding the person responsible? I'm still curious about what happened, I inquired with her. Amora let out a deep sigh as she set her fork down on her plate, leaving behind a few remaining pancakes. The reason for that is Odin's decision to gather all available forces from different pantheons in order to establish a truce against you. She pauses briefly to take a sip of water before resuming her conversation. They are intimidated by your strength and influence, especially since you defeated Zeus without any chance of resurrection. However, A few have taken notice of your selfless protection of this world. In fact, after witnessing your act of saving and healing a child, some have started to reconsider their opposition, she concludes, prompting me to reflect on my heroic endeavors. Despite my efforts to save people worldwide, it has certainly angered numerous governments. I successfully put an end to illicit arms deals by dismantling the weapons and providing concrete evidence of the country involved in selling them. Well, at this point, Fury is practically my closest ally since he's well versed in these matters, but unfortunately, his ability to take action is limited by the World Council. I have gained a reputation that strikes fear into the hearts of crime lords, as I have successfully sent thousands of them to jail. Even Hydra, the notorious organization, is feeling the pressure, as they are unable to come up with a plan to eliminate me. Tony Stark, fortunately, is on my side, and if anything, he is more than willing to assist me, which is truly fantastic. That I completely overlooked the informational aspect of it. I successfully hacked into various systems and leaked the information, leaving subtle clues to my involvement. After a brief pause, I informed Amora, "All right, but I inquired about the reason behind your physical condition." She tightly clutches her glass of water. I declined further assistance to Odin as he insisted on arranging a marriage with Tsukuyomi, a Shinto god, she informed me. And he subjected you to a form of punishment involving intense suffering, I remarked. He did, she said to me. I had a thought. Did anyone make an attempt to intervene? I inquired, already aware of the response. No, anyone can defy what Odin says, she says while looking down with a few tears streaming down her cheeks. Felicia and I exchanged glances, and I posed the question. Who was the victim? I inquired of her while on my feet. My sister, Lorelei, she says, in a state of emotional distress. I embrace her and offer my shoulder for her to find solace in. Despite our strained relationship, she was still my sister, she says, tears streaming down her face. I observe Felicia as she gazes at me with an expression that seems to imply, yet another one. I simply shrug at her. 3 days later, it was surprisingly easy to explain to Hera and Jean what happened, even though they had a brief telepathic conversation that almost made me grateful for my immunity against my mind reading. I am in a relationship with someone who possesses extraordinary abilities and is incredibly alluring. However, if they were able to perceive my thoughts, I would feel uncertain about how to proceed. I am currently conducting research on the X gene when the beacon I provided to Mark suddenly activates. I provided him with a device that includes 3 different alarm settings. One for potential catastrophic events, another for encounters with Brainiac, and a third for any other situations. The alarm for Doomsday is sounding. I swiftly don my equipment when out of nowhere, I sense that my multiversal probe has touched down in an unknown location. I head out towards Mark's multiverse, feeling a sense of determination. I open a portal to the zone and take a deep breath. Zod is not currently in the fortress, he is out exploring the Earth. As for Anissa, she is attending an adult school. Jean is at her school, while Hera goes to visit her mother, and Amora is still in the process of recovering mentally from her ordeal. I am taking full responsibility for this. I feel a mix of emotions as I prepare to confront him, I mutter to myself before soaring into the zone to confront Doomsday. Naruto's perspective, just a little longer, Mark, I'm almost there, I muttered to myself as I emerged from the zone and entered Mark's multiverse. Mark's perspective, Naruto, please come over here. I'm uncertain how much longer I can endure, I remarked, emerging from a mountain where the formidable Doomsday had hurled me. I recently adjusted the beacon's position. I wondered about Alan's whereabouts when I suddenly heard the monstrous roar, witnessing its destructive path. I approached the situation with determination, delivering a forceful blow. However, my efforts only caused a slight reaction before my opponent swiftly seized me by the head and proceeded to deliver a series of punches to my stomach. The impact was severe, resulting in the expulsion of blood from my mouth and ultimately leading to my collapse. He attempts to stomp on me, but I swiftly move a few yards away. With a burst of energy, I propel myself towards him, landing a powerful strike with my right knee. The impact causes his head to recoil and his mouth to open in surprise. As I soar above him, I seize the opportunity to grab hold of his mouth, sending him hurtling backward through multiple buildings. This brief respite allows me a moment to catch my breath before pursuing him further. I chased after him, and within moments, I spotted him soaring through the air after he was thrown. I deliver a forceful strike to his back using my left arm, swiftly following up with a powerful punch from my right hand, ultimately driving him into the ground. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn from Naruto, I mutter, wiping away the blood from my mouth and feeling the strain in my arms. I descended gracefully when out of nowhere, the formidable creature materialized before me in a swift motion and delivered a forceful blow to my face, causing a few teeth to dislodge. I was propelled into the vast expanse of space. Fortunately, I was able to catch my breath before venturing into space. How can I effectively restrain this individual until Naruto arrives? I pondered as my body diligently worked to restore itself. However, the process is quite sluggish. I require a minimum of 2 days to fully recover, but unfortunately, I am unable to do so at the moment. I firmly shake my head, disregarding the discomfort as I fearlessly soar down to confront Doomsday face to face. It is crucial to prevent further loss of life on our planet. I witnessed him leaping towards a city just as I collided with him, causing both of us to plummet to the ground. I am a source of frustration for him. I consider the consequences before he forcefully brings me down, causing pain and blood to escape from my mouth. I notice the spikes on his fists growing in length and becoming even more pointed, if that's even possible. A figure with a striking aura of power swiftly intervenes, shielding me from harm as my vision gradually clears. I recognize the person who rescued me. It's about time you arrived. Go get him. I softened him up for you, I say before losing consciousness. The last thing I see is Naruto grabbing me in a yellowish glow, which I recognize as his healing spell, getting closer. Then, I pass out. Naruto's perspective, I observe Mark's injuries and notice the blood oozing from his wounds. Assessing the multiple fractures in the upper area of his body, it appears that his left leg has sustained the least amount of damage. As I prepare a healing spell, I carefully examine the rest of his injuries. I ensure his safety by swiftly catching him before he loses his balance and carefully lowering him to the ground. I send a powerful spell towards him, causing his body to heal rapidly. I immediately recognize the source of the deafening sound, as I listen to the sound. Bring it on, I said confidently before swiftly flying over to him. It was clear that he was a skilled opponent, able to react to my speed even though I had disabled my speed force boost. He skillfully blocked my punch and countered with a powerful headbutt. I need to be cautious of his bone spikes, which have the ability to pierce kryptonian skin. Even though I can adapt, I can't afford to take any chances, I think to myself as he throws a punch at me. I skillfully evade his attack and swiftly strike him in the face. However, he quickly retaliates by seizing my leg and forcefully slams me into the ground with incredible strength. I prevent him from doing that by vibrating and phasing out of his grip. I utilize my mystical abilities to amplify my physical prowess as our fists collide, resulting in a powerful shockwave. I can sense my body adjusting to counter his moves, but it seems he's also adapting to my tactics. With determination, I unleash my heat vision, aiming directly for his eyes. Following up with a powerful haymaker, I send him flying through the air. Without hesitation, I pursue him relentlessly. Naruto's point of view, I manage to escape the predicament caused by Doomsday's relentless attacks. You are quite resilient, aren't you? I remarked to Doomsday as he charged towards me. We have been engaged in a prolonged conflict, and the impact of his strikes is becoming increasingly painful. I ascend swiftly, skillfully evading his assault and swiftly delivering a decisive blow that sends him crashing to the earth. He is becoming more proficient, but what concerns me is that he was able to leave 3 scratches on my armor with his bone claws. It's worth noting that my armor has been carefully crafted and imbued with powerful enchantments. It has been forged using a combination of uru and vibranium, with a touch of true adamantium. However, the true adamantium hasn't been blended seamlessly with the other metals, including the Makluan metal that came with the armor. The fact that he managed to leave a scratch on it is a testament to his incredible strength, as he was able to bypass my bioelectric aura. I witness his sudden emergence from the hole and swiftly counter with an anti-photon blast, which proves to be remarkably effective. I understood its effectiveness when I battled Carol, but it truly shines when used against Doomsday. While I am minimizing my usage of it, I don't want him to become accustomed to it too quickly. The anti-photon blasts depleting Doomsday's energy reserves, hindering his ability to adapt. While he may have the potential to adapt to alternative power sources, he appears to struggle in doing so. I suddenly hear the arrival of ships, only to be met with a disheartening sight as they mercilessly bombard the planet's surface. Fortunately, I had the foresight to bring Doomsday with me to a lifeless planet, but now they are unleashing their full arsenal upon it. I protect myself, yet still, vulnerabilities start to appear in my defenses. I hear the sound of Doomsday's roar. I gaze at the ship and immediately identify the largest one. Brainiac's skull ship. Oh no, I muttered to myself as I strengthened my shield even further. I observe that he is not even directing his attention towards me. He has set his sights on Doomsday, I murmured to myself, realizing his intention to further enhance his power. I release my shield and proceed to eliminate the ships individually, although the consequences have already been incurred. The big skull ship departs, having successfully completed its mission. Even from space, I can clearly observe the impact of Brainiac's actions. Doomsday has undergone significant growth, with his bone spikes appearing even more menacing than ever. They emit a striking, otherworldly blue glow. I notice his eyes starting to emit a radiant glow as his unique form of heat vision targets me. He now possesses the ability to see far distances and even utilize heat vision, which was not previously possible for this version of him. I couldn't help but feel frustrated with myself for spending so much time on Doomsday. Regrettably, I didn't have to wait for him to arrive swiftly, causing me to utilize the Speed Force to match his pace. I deliver a strike towards him, only for him to swiftly intercept it and draw me closer, delivering a forceful backhand blow with his other hand. As I witnessed the sight of Doomsday's forehead, my Mandarin helmet shatters. He bears the Brainiac symbol. I couldn't help but think about the dire situation I found myself in, facing a Doomsday that was under the control of Brainiac. The impact of his blow was still fresh, causing a sharp pain to course through me. The sensation gradually diminishes as my adjustment takes effect in conjunction with my innate recovery. He approaches me, but I am prepared for his next attack. I skillfully utilize both the Crimson and Speed Force energies, effortlessly deflecting his attack before delivering a powerful blow to his abdomen, causing him to double over. However, he seizes one of my legs and strikes me in the chest. Fortunately, I swiftly conjure a protective shield, but I notice his claws have elongated and managed to barely penetrate through my defense. I had to remove him from this place and confront him on my own conditions. The realization that followed almost caused me to express my shock audibly. I couldn't help but notice his increasing strength as I observed him transforming into a familiar type of metal. Vibranium is developing on his bone spikes. It seems that Brainiac has somehow gained knowledge about my armor and its adaptability. He managed to break my helmet, and now I'm wondering how he is able to control what Doomsday adapts to. I reflect internally. A plan takes shape in my mind, perhaps not the most brilliant plan, but still better than having no plan at all. I skillfully create and open a portal to the zone. I will not be taking him to the Marvel multiverse, but rather to a new one that I have yet to explore. I guide us to the probe as it propels us out of the zone and into an entirely new multiverse. However, it appears that both of us are experiencing pain as we try to navigate and adjust to this new multiverse. I find myself in a seemingly endless expanse resembling an ocean, but before I can fully comprehend my surroundings, I notice a significant decline in my powers. Suddenly, a slender metallic fist with bone-like claws hurtles towards my face. Reacting swiftly, I draw my sword and strike back with all my might. However, my opponent manages to land another blow, sending me soaring into the depths of the ocean while they retreat to the safety of the land. As I descend, I strive to soar, my body determined to harness its abilities within this intricate power system of the multiverse. When I connect on the surface of it, I experience some discomfort before losing consciousness. Elsewhere in this new multiverse third point of view, there are three opposed factions warring in our Earth. In rare cases, they battle on Earth. One side of heaven on the side of Grigori, one side of the devils. The three teams are fighting two formidable dragons in their most intense combat to yet. One is red, the other is white, as the battlefield comes to a close, and both dragons are near death. The three sides sense two tremendous presences arrive abruptly, one seeming to get weaker and weaker while the other gradually becomes stronger. "Father, do you know who these presences belong to?" An armored figure with golden wings inquired of a taller figure, claiming that power seemed to be rolling off in waves. "No, Michael. I don't know who they are, but because one seems to be weaker, I'm going to presume that the other one is dying." The figure stops while attempting to express the sense of something wanting to murder so badly. Not only can these three sides sense the advent of these two, but every pantheon is aware of them and terrified of their enormous strength. Some confuse them with the two dragon gods, while others wish to control whomever holds such power. But they note that one is weakening while the other is strengthening. On a shrine, a little girl with 9 tails is terrified of feeling the utter bloodlust emanating from one of them. "Yasaka, come here," the girl's mother comforted her by embracing her close. The yokai are terrified since even their world's anger and cruelty cannot compare to what they are experiencing. The earth starts to quake, but not in a natural manner, as if the planet itself is scared of these two. "What are they?" whisper the goddess of the earth about the strength she detects. On a council on a mountain, some of them identify the presence of one of them as a kind of hybrid of their sky god and their sea god. "Father, Poseidon, what did the two of you do?" inquired a specific wisdom goddess. "Brothers, what have you done this time?" inquired a specific queen who, for some reason, believes the one they recognize should be familiar to her and has a sense she cannot identify. "We've done nothing, we don't know who they are," answered the sky god, defending himself and his sibling. "Whoever that one is, he or she appears to be dying. We must focus on the other one," stated a certain trident-wielding deity. They all agreed as they started to receive communications from other pantheons requesting their assistance in stopping the danger, unaware that some of them would meet their demise. N.A. Your question will be answered in the next few chapters, and Naruto's power will not be diminished once you remember what the Fortress Crystal can do and did in Smallville to help Jonathan Kent save Clark, and remember Naruto is a Kryptonian, and his fortress works everywhere, including other multiverses. Also, I simply decided to merge 2 chapters into one since I am still not home, and no, he will not get together with DxD Hera. Keep in mind that there will be a time skip in DxD but not in the Marvelverse, which you will see later. Additionally, he will not be merged. The only issue is that he will have to wait until the link with the zone improves in order to return to either the Marvelverse or the Invincible one. Third-person point of view on a crater, we observe every Pantheon's leader bruised and almost dead, beside a red dragon and a white dragon nearby. We witness them try to rise up, knowing their end is close. "Father, after everything, I still hate you," Lucifer told his father, who was assisting his twin Michael in standing up while moaning in agony. "I know," declares the god of the Bible, of DxD. "Well, we had a good run, didn't we?" Azazel remarks to the other leaders, Zeus, Odin, and Indra. The monster they are battling has already done enough damage to drive every pantheon on the planet to fight as one, but their opponent is just becoming stronger. Naruto's paw. I awoke feeling wet, which made me understand I was underwater and breathing, as well as remembering my abilities over the sea. I shake my head while soaring away from the water. My powers, they don't seem weaker, but they seem a lot easier to control than before, I murmured to myself before trying each one on the top of my head and noting that I can more or less limit my power output at this point. "Okay, so I am still as strong as ever," I murmured to myself before seeing a hamlet in the distance that seemed to have been entirely devastated, with corpses torn apart. "Doomsday," I say quietly, recognizing that their deaths are my responsibility. I immediately bury them before I hear any noises of devastation, and it isn't long until I fly over to battle. As I fly over, I see more and more towns with people's corpses torn apart, but I halt when I find a little mound of flesh. I walk down and see that it was intended to be a youngster. "This is my fault," I mutter to myself, recognizing what I created as tears stream down my cheeks. I rapidly surveyed the battlefield, recognizing some but not all. "DxD, huh," I remarked as I saw Doomsday approaching them, but before getting too near, I punch him far away before sending my armor into the zone. "Leave, now, this is my fight to finish," I tell them as they gaze at me and want to know who I am. "We'll talk later now, go," I yelled at the conclusion, when a Doomsday with additional spikes seemed to be releasing some light power. "Shit," I think to myself, grabbing his fist as I no longer hold back. My fist shrouded in crimson and speed force energy, I punch him in the face, knocking him back, but before he does, I grab his foot and slam him into the ground so hard that he falls into a hole, but I still hold his foot, so I drag him out of his hole and punch him in the stomach while making sure he doesn't hit any of the idiots who are staring at me before realizing that I am simply moving too fast for them to move. So I merely get them out of the way before realizing that Doomsday has somehow managed to speed up and travel slowly across my perspective. "No, you won't, but thanks for the kinetic energy," I informed him, not caring whether he could hear me, before deciding to quit battling him and drain him of every ounce of kinetic energy, much as Barry Allen did to the person who murdered Impulse in the comics. Doomsday came to a complete halt. I shed a few tears as I recall the sight of the corpses. I've murdered before, but I shake my head angrily as I gaze at Doomsday. I wipe away my tears, knowing that the image will linger with me forever because my kryptonian intellect will make sure of it. I hear the leaders approaching me as I call my armor to disguise my face, which no longer matters, but I can't rely on my understanding of the canon in this realm. Who and what are you? I asked Odin, who seemed a little terrified, and in all honesty, his presence is so feeble that it's not even humorous how they all look to be. I am Naruto L, I said, turning to glance back at Doomsday to ensure he would never move again. I will answer your question later as I take this thing somewhere he won't harm anyone ever again, I assured them as I lifted Doomsday. I will meet you back here in 3 days, I promised them, releasing part of my strength, causing the majority of them to faint and forcing me to drop Doomsday. When they wake up, tell them when, I instructed those who remained standing before departing with Doomsday. On an unrelated subject, I just finished reading the manga. Is the anime decent or hurried, passing over a lot of stuff in DxD? Naruto's POV. It's a day before my meeting with the leaders, and I've started burying the individuals who were murdered by Doomsday because of me. I am so stupid, I thought to myself as I buried the final kid in the coffin I built with the McLuhan rings, and yes, I am burying them with a shovel at super speed. 250,000 people perished as a result of my hubris. I eventually let go of the shovel I fashioned with the true adamantium rings and flew to a quiet spot where I formed a telekinetic barrier, allowing me to stop holding back the anguish of seeing those individuals dead in my thoughts. All the corpses that I saw were not only humans but yokai, angels, demons and fallen, Asgardians, and even Egyptians, which from their clothes made it simple to tell who they were. After I completed building the barrier, I started crying. The next day I'm hovering above the crater where the meeting will take place, wondering about what to do with Doomsday. I have many strategies to get rid of him. The first is to dump him in the space between multiverses, but he may adapt it, and even though I am depleting his kinetic energy, I don't want to chance him adapting and landing in a multiverse. A genuinely plausible solution would be to take him to the Marvel multiverse and ask the Ancient One to use the Time Stone to age backward into oblivion, but I acclimated to it so he could too. The third alternative is to wait until I can manipulate reality and deactivate his abilities before killing him forever. If I murder him and some death god takes his soul and miraculously restores his body and abilities, they will get a visit from me. Fortunately, I can imprison his spirit and most likely utilize it in some ceremony involving souls or whatever. The fourth alternative is to wait until I have the Mind Stone and potentially the Soul Stone, then control him and use him as a weapon. The difficulty is that I adapted to the Time Stone, implying he may adapt to both the Mind and Soul Stones. The only option that appeals to me is to use reality manipulation to take away his abilities permanently, then kill his soul with my sword. I've not been locking him in the zone since, in the comics, he managed to free himself out of it. The simplest solution would be to get the Golden Sentry Serum when I return, but the fortress has discovered no record of it, and it may seem strange, but I still have every Robert Reynolds in the globe under observation. The only issue would be the void aspect, but using the Speed Force, I could perhaps discover one that is perfect across the Marvel multiverse since every option exists there, implying that a genuine perfected Sentry Serum is out there waiting for me to take it. One thing I can concentrate on right now is my armor. My armor on the hand is not up to par, plain and simple. It was scratched by Doomsday, and while that in itself is impressive, he didn't even manage to leave a mark on me. I am going to have to create new armor, and one way I can enhance it for now is to put in maximum effort during the creation process. I am committed to enhancing my expertise in magic and exploring innovative approaches to utilize all available resources. I am looking to acquire the assistance of capable individuals to combat formidable entities such as Jean and Hera, Felicia, Anissa, Mark, and even Peter and Zoe, as their current efforts are limited. I will thoroughly plan for all scenarios, drawing from a wide range of media sources. I will ensure that this never happens again, I muttered to myself, gazing into the distance where the lives lost due to my own hubris lie at rest. I would like to explore different multiverses and utilize my adaptability to understand and harness their distinct power systems. However, at the moment, I must explore what the DxD world has to offer, but before that, I felt compelled to rectify the consequences of my actions and take responsibility for the harm I have caused to their world. I witnessed the emergence of the portals and observed the leaders emerging, rejuvenated, and prepared for any potential conflict. With my defenses at the ready, I successfully fend off Kokebiel's assault, along with his presumed followers, by raising my hand. I am considering whether or not to keep Anissa in the harem, and I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on the matter. In the middle of December, I decided to take a break from this novel and focus on my gamer story. I am currently in the process of rewriting it, and I am determined to see it through from beginning to end. As this is my first story ever, I would greatly appreciate any assistance in identifying and correcting grammar errors. Naruto's perspective. I raised my hand, only to quickly lower it as numerous beams of light approached me, shattering upon contact. After absorbing the energy from them before they dissipated completely. I am not satisfied with the energy. I couldn't help but be amazed by the lackluster energy, which barely made a dent in my own. With my expertise, I effortlessly maneuvered and caused them all to descend to the ground. I can't help but stifle a laugh at the thought. I silently convey my acceptance of their decision as a crystal materializes in my right palm. I will utilize the crystal to capture the light energy for an experiment. Please, refrain from harming them, a voice called out loudly as a fallen angel with unique hair colors and multiple wings approached me but stopped at a safe distance. Why should I? They attempted to provoke me, and it was Kokabeel, the fallen angel, who orchestrated the attack, if it can even be called that. His insatiable thirst for war is beyond reason, and I am determined to eliminate him while sparing the others. However, should they dare to make any further attempts, I will not hesitate to take them down, I informed Azazel, as I unleashed a fraction of my power. The intensity of my presence caused beads of sweat to form on everyone's foreheads, and I couldn't help but notice a few female devils and fallen angels blushing in response. Alright, I will disregard that. I pondered silently as a few of the other leaders approached, yet I remained vigilant. Who I am and what I do is irrelevant to any of you, I informed them all. I accept full responsibility for the casualties resulting from the encounter with the creature. It was my error that led us to this situation, however, I will temporarily step away and make occasional returns. Ultimately, I will prioritize resolving this matter. I urge you all to refrain from causing harm to humanity. Rest assured, once I uncover the entire faction to which this individual belongs, they will face the appropriate consequences, I informed them, receiving nods of agreement from some, although not everyone seemed fully convinced. With his striking white hair and intense expression, it was immediately clear who this person was. Lucifer Morningstar is a less impressive rendition of him anyway. I personally believe that DC's Lucifer from the TV show is superior. You expect us to let you go? I swiftly interrupted him by forcefully bringing him down to the ground, despite my anticipation of his words regarding the tragic loss of his son, Rizavam, who tragically fell victim to Doomsday at the tender age of 9. I gained further insight into his thoughts and discovered the underlying reasons for his strong aversion towards his father. This GOFTB is not authentic, a god of the Bible GOFTB. This individual strongly dislikes dragons due to their immense power and the negative impact they had on the previous Earth. During a conflict with Gaia and humanity, GOFTB was able to devastate the previous Earth and attempted to assimilate the souls of humans. However, an unexpected occurrence with the energy released by Gaia ended up establishing the groundwork for the other gods. Lucifer discovered this information while conversing with a fragment of Gaia. He absorbed the fragment, gaining enough power to rebel against Gaia. However, he chose to keep this revelation to himself as he stumbled upon another secret. That GOFTB has a sibling who is completely different from him. There was a sort of battle between light and darkness, and it seems that light emerged victorious. Light not only destroyed his brother's physical body but also banished him from the universe. I thoroughly investigate what Lucifer discovered. GOFTB strongly dislikes dragons, expressing a level of disdain that surpasses even the intensity of Hitler's animosity towards Jews. The diseases he created were intended to eliminate them, but instead, they were unleashed into the world as dragons paid no attention to them. The second attempt resulted in the transformation of Samael into his current state. Although he gained the ability to hunt dragons, it came at the cost of his sanity. GOFTB, frustrated by his inability to control this weapon, further cursed him. As a result, Samael became a formidable anti-dragon, god killer. Merely being in his presence is enough to make gods or dragons feel as if they are dying, and any physical contact with him would result in their literal incineration. His toxic substance, or rather his bodily fluid, is exceptionally potent. It not only introduces harmful elements into your body, but when it enters your system, particularly your heart, it causes your blood to boil. This individual has displayed some positive qualities in the past, but it is important to acknowledge and address their previous actions. I observe the individuals who remain in the ground, and my astonishment grows when I spot a figure at the rear. This person, who shouldn't even exist yet or possess a magical girl's wand and broken glasses in her pocket, nearly takes my breath away. Seraphal Leviathan. 3 days later, the story continues. Naruto's point of view: it has been 3 days since my meeting with them. Honestly, after I stopped talking, most of them left feeling intimidated. Although I did meet with the Shinto and church leaders, they seemed quite fearful. However, I couldn't fully grasp their thoughts since I am not Xavier. I try to avoid snooping around, most of the time. Currently, I am about to have a conversation with Seraphal, who is standing in front of me with evident signs of having shed many tears. How did you manage to be here? I pause as I observe her reaching into one of her pockets. My probe, I state confidently, as I feel the strong connection with the one I have already deployed to explore another multiverse, ensuring that it continues to venture into the vast unknown. So, it's yours, she said in a somber tone, her voice trembling, while I noticed blood trickling down her wrists. I observed her sleeves and noticed that she had started to harm herself. I can't help but feel a sense of shock when I notice her wrists. I firmly grasp her wrists despite her objections, swiftly tending to her injuries before releasing her. She meets my gaze with unwavering intensity. You didn't have to do that, she spoke in a gentle tone, her gaze shifting from the ground to her wrists, which had now healed, and then back to me. So that probe is indeed yours, thank you, I suppose, she remarked while observing the probe in my hands. I thought she wasn't like this in the anime. What occurred? I asked her once more in a gentle manner. She closed her eyes, a tear escaping from her right eye. During that period, we were engaged in a fierce battle against a formidable entity known as the Trihexa. The heads of the prominent factions devised a strategy to contain ourselves alongside the creature, dedicating as much time as necessary. Suddenly, a peculiar black substance descended from the heavens and merged with the beast, augmenting its already formidable power. Strangely, it appeared that the creature also acquired a newfound intelligence from this mysterious sludge. She paused briefly to catch her breath. An interesting substance. The seal we had intended to use proved ineffective, and to make matters worse, more of those sludge-like creatures descended from the sky. They forcibly entered people's bodies, transforming them into dark creatures that preyed on the brains of others. We observed these creatures growing stronger and larger with each brain consumed. Following an incident involving a significant amount of phenethylamine, she proceeded to elaborate in. After a few months of battling the creatures, we made a significant discovery. We finally found it, she indicated my worn-out probe, and upon closer inspection, I noticed deep scratches caused by an incredibly sharp blade. Ajuka Beelzebub made a discovery regarding the harmful energy contained within it. Unfortunately, Zekrom Bael, also known as Lucifer, took it away from us after Sirzex fell victim to the monsters. Lucifer then proceeded to exploit its power by capturing creatures and forcing people to fight them in a gladiatorial arena, all for his own gain, she recounted with a sense of disgust, recalling the extent of Lucifer's actions after being bestowed the title of a Lucifer. We initiated an operation to recover it and safeguard ourselves from their intrusion, considering our existence in a separate realm. The beings had no means of accessing the underworld, just like other pantheons situated in their respective pocket dimensions. However, she paused briefly. What we assumed is or was, whatever, the point is he appeared and started eliminating everything and everyone. We all provided refuge in our respective dimensions, shielding ourselves from his grasp, until he launched a devastating assault on the Vatican, emerging even stronger than before. Later, he and his armies started harnessing the power of magic. I can't believe it. How did he even acquire magic? Although in the comics, he never really utilized magic, even when he brought back Essex through time in an attempt to expedite his liberation. I pondered, still grappling with the potential correlation between these two multiverses. And when they started utilizing magic, they started intruding into the dimensions and ruthlessly eliminating or absorbing everything in their path. We attempted to employ that. She indicated my probe, and I noticed that its connection with me had been lost, but I still recognized the materials and their appearance. To fight back, but the energy in it was not unlimited. We attempted to replicate the effects, but at that point, only the Norse, Hindu, and Shinto factions, along with some remnants from the yokai who sought refuge with them and the biblical faction, remained. Then they suddenly realized that the energy from your probe had the potential to cause harm, and even death, to some of them. As a result, They all decided to retreat to the underworld, including their leader who. She paused as tears welled up in her eyes. I efficiently determined the cause of the issue. I embrace her as she continues to shed tears for a few moments. Eventually, she takes a step back and tries to regain her composure as much as possible. Upon entering the underworld, they eliminated all the individuals present. I happened to be with Ajuka at that moment when I received a distress call from my sister. Hastening to the location, I discovered a gruesome scene. My sister, along with her best friend Rias and their peerages, had been brutally slain. Their heads were either missing or shattered, and their brains were nowhere to be found. She became overwhelmed with emotion upon seeing her sister and reliving the tragic circumstances of her passing. I embrace her once more, reflecting on the profound words she just shared. You and your friend Ajuka were able to uncover certain abilities of my probe, specifically its time power capabilities. Your friend found a way to send you back in time to warn your past selves about what was going to happen. Unfortunately, it seems that you were attacked just before you traveled back, resulting in being sent even further into the past. However, this action depleted all the energy in my probe, leaving you clueless about the whereabouts of your friend, I concluded, piecing everything together as she leaned her head back. That was unsettling, she says. Who are you exactly? In my time, no one knows who you are, and someone of your power should be well known, she asks while maintaining eye contact, causing me to notice the significant height difference between us. Regarding that matter, thank you all for the support and feedback you have provided on my stories. I appreciate your suggestions on how I can improve. I will provide a comprehensive explanation in the upcoming chapters regarding the presence of this individual in the current timeline. Fast forward 2 weeks. Naruto's perspective. I am currently with Seraphal, overseeing the intense battle between God and the 4 Satans. I am patiently awaiting the opportunity to delve into his mind and uncover everything I can about the enigmatic figure known as Null and perhaps even discover the true identity of the God of the Bible. I observe Seraphal, who stands beside me, as we patiently await the arrival of both Drake and Albion. Reflecting on the past, I remember the time I crafted a mirror to observe my own reflection and discovered that I had grown taller. Upon arriving in this multiverse, I experienced a moment of unconsciousness, which I attributed to the act of entering this new realm. However, I realized that my adaptation led me to seamlessly integrate into the power system of this world, resulting in physical changes such as my hair turning completely black and my eyes emitting a subtle glow. On the contrary, my body has undergone some changes, and I've gained a significant amount of muscle, resulting in a more classic Superman physique. I pondered how Jean, Hera, and Felicia would perceive this situation, contemplating their perspectives. I shift my attention back to the intense battle unfolding before me. GOFTB, God of the Bible, unleashes a powerful attack, causing the 4 mouths to be forcefully driven into the ground. The impact shakes the very earth beneath us, but the tremors persist. Suddenly, a swift streak of red and white appears on the battlefield. Although they may not possess the same level of power as me, they seem to possess the ability to defeat an average Kryptonian, thanks to the magical energy that courses through the dragons of the DXD multiverse. I witness a moment where the God of the Bible in DXD removes an item, causing Seraphal to gasp in surprise. What is it? I inquired silently when I noticed the pallor of her complexion. I have already informed her about my telepathic abilities. This artifact was meant to be confiscated from the devils and eliminated by the church due to its ability to manipulate a person's will and completely erase their personality, she responds. I inquired of her, seeking guidance on the matter. It utilizes the user's energy to eliminate the short-term memories of an individual, followed by their long-term memories, resulting in a complete erasure. I apologize for my limited knowledge beyond this point. She completed her task. It's okay, but I am more interested in what he is doing with it, I informed her as we observed him efficiently erasing their identities, and within a matter of minutes, the task was completed. They were lying on the floor, drooling, as the God of the Bible in DXD swiftly drained their energy. As the 2 majestic dragons approached, he produced a vial of mysterious black liquid. Even under my watchful eye, I couldn't discern its composition, but my senses told me it was potent. He opened the vial, and as soon as the smell reached my nose, I was overcome with a strong sense of disgust and the urge to vomit. Imagine experiencing the intense odor of a decomposing body that has been exposed to the sun, discarded into the sewers, consumed by an animal, regurgitated, and then consumed once more before being excreted. The scent is truly overwhelming. What I sense is even more troubling. as it deeply disgusts my very soul and inexplicably fills me with rage. Seraphal firmly grasps my arm as I turn to face her. She appears quite frightened, with tears streaming down her face. I embrace her tightly as we witness the God of the Bible consuming the vial without any hesitation, a clear expression of disgust etched on his face. The outcome is truly horrifying, as I observe his insides continuously melting and regenerating, while his stomach starts to dissolve. Seraphal regurgitates on the floor. I assist her in getting back up as we avert our gaze, but the gruesome sounds of his body melting are impossible to ignore. I notice something else and quickly turn to see him making a decisive gesture towards the 4 unconscious Maus. I witness the energy draining from their bodies as they meet their final demise. Both Drake and Albion are in close proximity, and the God of the Bible is preparing a spell that, while not as powerful as the abominations in the library of Kamar Taj, can still hold its own against some of the mid-tier spells. Seraphal collapses to the ground, retching violently. This time, blood accompanies her vomit. "Why is it bothering you so much?" I inquired with her. However, she remains unresponsive, prompting me to envelop both of us in a protective shield. "Seraphal, I will assess your condition to determine the cause of your discomfort," I assured her, although her pain seemed to be quite severe. I examine her thoroughly and observe extensive damage that bears striking resemblance to radiation poisoning. Strangely, it seems to be specifically targeting her pain receptors, almost as if it possesses a consciousness of its own. It's quite evident that significant changes have taken place since I arrived here. Observing the swift demise of both Drake and Albion at the hands of the God of the Bible in DXD, I can only speculate that he may have manipulated the blood of Samael to also have an impact on devils. I successfully remove the effect from Seraphal while she peacefully rests, tending to her injuries. I start to hear laughter coming from the God of the Bible as I glance over at him. I can't help but notice the boosted gear and divine dividing gears on him, but something seems off. His wings are drooping to the ground, and his face looks a bit disheveled. The gears themselves don't quite have the polished, professional appearance that one might expect. He displays a disturbing transformation, with his eyes emitting a dark substance and his teeth sharpening. A symbol materializes on his chest, causing portals to appear around him. The angels observe him with a sense of dread. At last, he ceases his laughter as his armor materializes around him. I detect a presence behind me and cautiously approach Seraphal. I swiftly turn around and skillfully wield my sword, swiftly piercing the creature's vulnerable spot. With a powerful surge of heat vision, I unleash a scorching blast that swiftly extinguishes its life. A symbiote. I observe that the red symbol on his chest has completely taken shape. I swiftly move towards him, ensuring that Seraphal is safely placed in the zone for her protection. "Ah, it's you," I remarked, as a smile graced his face. "Thanks to your intervention, I have returned home and freed myself from the clutches of oblivion," he says. "How did I not notice you, and how did you manage to control him?" I asked him, frustrated that despite my heightened senses, I couldn't detect him at all. Where would the enjoyment in that be? But I must express my gratitude once more for granting me the opportunity to eliminate my brother, he stated as he materialized a crimson blade. "It's unfortunate that you won't have the opportunity to fully appreciate the joys of life, Null," I remarked to him as the boosted gear briefly emitted a green glow. He swiftly approached me, attempting to strike me in half, but I skillfully blocked his attack with my own sword. It became evident that my sword was superior, as all black sustained some damage. "Bring it," I confidently declared as our swords clashed, unleashing powerful shockwaves that sent the angels soaring through the air. I searched for images of all black, and I noticed that when Null uses it, the color appears red. However, when Gore uses it, the color is actually black. I would appreciate it if someone could provide an explanation for this discrepancy. I will provide an explanation regarding the inclusion of Null in the new timeline, considering his pre-existing presence from Seraphal's era. Additionally, it's worth noting that Null's connections extend beyond just DXD and Marvel. Additionally, I apologize for the lack of recent updates. Due to several of my colleagues testing positive for COVID-19, I was requested to work additional hours to compensate for their absence. I eagerly embraced the opportunity to earn some extra income. I apologize once again for any inconvenience caused. Naruto Pav. I skillfully deflect another attack from Null, only to be met with a powerful blast to the face. Although I remained unfazed, the angels, still in awe, were forcefully propelled by the sheer impact. We haven't communicated since our disagreements arose, instead resorting to constant confrontation. It's disheartening to see that I have the ability to defeat him effortlessly at this moment. Despite his expertise, he lacks a comprehensive understanding of the immense potential held within both sacred gears. Both gears are in pristine condition, as they have not been owned by anyone else to influence them emotionally. It is uncertain whether they possess identical capabilities. After a few minutes of this, I become frustrated that he is only utilizing them as a means to gain an advantage, which he appears to realize as I effortlessly deflect his attacks. "Do I come across as uninteresting to you?" he asks in a composed manner, perhaps too composed. "Would you become upset if I were to respond affirmatively?" I informed him. "No, not really," he claims. A portal suddenly appears, and although I initially allow him to depart, I decide to follow him through. Together, we emerge in a location that I had previously glimpsed during my journey through the vast Marvel multiverse. The Vatican. Why? Before I even have a chance to react, Null unleashes a devastating blast. Acting swiftly, I swiftly gather everyone in the vicinity and swiftly move them to a safe distance, ensuring their well-being. It didn't take me much time at all, and upon returning to confront Null, I was disappointed to find that the blast had barely made any progress. However, the fact that it even budged is a testament to its immense power, especially considering that I am currently harnessing the Speed Force. At this point, I am simply going to deal with him efficiently, but before that, I will take the time to understand his thoughts. I approach him swiftly, effortlessly navigating through the powerful blast. The explosion is absorbed effortlessly, providing me with a negligible increase in power. I collide with him, conjuring crimson bands that encircle him, delving into his thoughts to uncover the reason behind his visit to the Vatican. He is here seeking his strength. After defeating Null, the god of the Bible in DXD successfully managed to separate him into distinct entities. His body was sent to the Marvel multiverse. Despite his weakened state, he possessed remarkable power until he was discovered and enslaved by Oblivion, which granted him even more power. I noticed his difficulty, so I adjusted the restraints slightly to ensure they were secure. Then, with an indifferent expression, I delivered a firm slap to his face. One of the pieces is located in a secure location beneath the Vatican, where it is carefully guarded, knowing that the angels are keeping a close eye on it. The individual was divided into 3 distinct parts: the body, mind, and soul. However, this separation was a lengthy process spanning thousands of years, as Null fiercely resisted. Out of nowhere, I detect his movement and witness a devastating explosion that obliterates the unfinished Vatican. Massive tendrils of darkness emerge, wreaking havoc and engulfing everything in their path. The unsettling sensation I feel from this event is not as intense as what Null consumed, but it definitely exudes a palpable sense of danger. I approach Null with a professional demeanor, delving into his mind to understand how he arrived at this point, without concern for any potential harm I may cause. That's quite surprising," I mutter as I observe his ability to slay gods without claiming their domains. By refraining from doing so, he avoids being bound by the vast complexities of the Marvel multiverse, ensuring his freedom to accompany me. There is a strong connection between everyone's shadow and the realm of darkness in the Marvel multiverse. When an unusual shadow appeared, someone took a keen interest in observing my endeavors to escape that multiverse. They went to great lengths to accompany me to this place. He is like a hive, connected to his counterparts in other universes, each possessing an equal level of power. Another aspect that caught my attention was the unfortunate demise of one of his key components in Earth 616. When he entered different multiverses, he found himself subject to their unique set of rules. Consequently, if he were to meet his demise in one of these realms, his supposed immortality would no longer be effective. Because of Oblivion's enslavement in the Marvel multiverse, he acquired a spark of divinity. He dedicated himself to nurturing this spark, as it was his sole opportunity to seek retribution against the brother he felt had betrayed him. Lucifer discovered the items left behind and utilized them to create the original devils. The god of the Bible was dissatisfied with the situation, so they resorted to risky rituals to decrease their fertility rate and manipulate their perception, making it appear as if they had always struggled with having children. I shake my head and proceed to delve further, ensuring a protective barrier encompasses both of us. I managed to keep the tendrils at bay until I realized they were dangerously close. Naruto's perspective, I have a firm grip on Null's throat as he desperately fights against me. With relentless determination, I delve into his mind, meticulously sifting through every valuable and intriguing piece of information. To my astonishment, I discover the immense power hidden within his memories. To be completely frank, if I didn't possess the level of influence that I do and were just an ordinary individual, I would be absolutely frightened by the extent of his power. However, as I am not an ordinary individual, I have nothing to fear from him. I witness his triumph over the Celestials and their creations as he adapts to fighting without his usual powers. This development brings me great satisfaction. The symbiotes he created required several years of careful consideration. Drawing inspiration from his sword and armor, he crafted them meticulously. However, the original All Black was lost to gore. The ones he employs in the King in Black narrative are mere replicas, lacking the Celestials' fiery forging. I can observe his progress in acquiring self-taught fighting skills. He was a skilled fighter who excelled in combat. Even when facing opponents with unique abilities, he quickly adapted his fighting style to counter their tricky powers. I notice him increasingly exploring his powers while continuing to defeat gods and Celestials. Currently, I find myself quite perplexed as some of these celestial beings are as large as Earth's sun, and some even surpass that colossal size. What happened to the bodies of the Celestials? I understand that they break down in a way, but that's not the issue. If it weren't for professionalism, nowhere would not exist at all. Either someone removed the bodies or Galactus devoured them, I deduced. I will investigate further. I sense his discomfort as he struggles and tries to break free, but his efforts prove to be in vain. After a few minutes of this, I simply create a crystal to extract his memories, leaving him in a state of complete emptiness. Until I come across some memories that infuriated me. I suspected someone was tampering with me, and now I have identified the culprit. After absorbing energy from the Time Stone, he managed to retain some of it for himself, likely due to his previous encounters with multiple Infinity Stones. Indeed, he had 4 of them in the past, but unfortunately, the Celestials were able to forcefully take them away from him. He possessed the Time, Soul, Space, and Reality Stones. I couldn't help but be amazed as I reflected on his remarkable longevity. It's truly astonishing how he skillfully manipulated time, accelerating certain events to occur ahead of schedule. Natasha wasn't expected to be teaching at a school yet. The Skyfathers sent Gia after me, and Morlun easily defeated Peter. The Skrulls made a pact with the Olympians, and Zeus discovered how to completely rip domains from other gods much earlier than anticipated. It seems that these events were inevitable. And he accomplished it with remarkable efficiency. I recall the moment I grasped the stone and witnessed the fractures appearing on my skin. I can't help but shake my head at the memory. I carefully observe the crystal that I have created once more, readying it to capture and store its memories. I observe that the barrier remains completely unscathed. I observe Null's intense gaze filled with animosity directed towards me. I strike him in the head with the crystal, erasing all of his memories. His arms hang limply at his sides as the onslaught against my defenses ceases. I successfully send Null to my dimension and observe that the barrier around Seraphol is still intact. I detect a significant number of individuals approaching our location. Anticipating their arrival, I promptly seized Seraphol and returned to the Marvel Multiverse in order to return to our place of origin. Marvel Multiverse. Upon arriving at the fortress, I quickly survey the planet to ensure that everything is in order. No signs of any disturbances are detected. I observe Jean, Hera, Felicia, and Amora engaging in a game of Monopoly within the fortress. I place Seraphol on the bed in a spare room before joining the others. As I carefully consider the design for a new armor, I envision it as a crucial stepping stone towards the development of the next generation. I shake my head, determined to find innovative solutions to prevent a repeat of the Doomsday incident. I go to the location where the others are to inform them about the incident. I returned after an hour in our time. Fast forward 2 months later. Naruto's perspective. I am currently enjoying a moment of relaxation in the shower at the fortress. I have been productive during these past months, and my ship is now prepared. I have been going out with Jean, Hera, and Felicia. I informed them about the events involving Doomsday and the casualties that resulted from my lack of caution. They were quite concerned about the number of casualties, but they reassured me that it was impossible to predict that I would lose consciousness while transitioning to another multiverse. Thanks to the advanced technology at the fortress, I was able to determine that my body had simply adjusted to a completely unfamiliar multiverse. Which included my brain, which seemed to have short-circuited somehow. Fortunately, I quickly adjusted to situations like that, so hopefully, it will only be a minor inconvenience in the future. I finally took Amora out on a date after a while. We have been proceeding at a measured pace. After turning off the shower, I promptly step out and grab a fresh set of clothes. Serafal has faced some challenges adapting, but she did agree to remain here considering the ongoing turmoil in her world. This was after I successfully captured Null and brought him back here, ensuring the preservation of the seal in the Vatican within the DXD verse. I have strategic plans for it. The Null that remains has completely decimated her original timeline. She was understandably angry at him still being alive in her own time, and she vowed to seek revenge against him. In the words of someone who believes they are flawless, multiverse theory can be quite challenging. But I am determined to bring about a significant transformation in her world, even if it means forever altering her multiverse. I am fully committed to achieving this goal. The imitation of Dragon Ball in the DXD verse was extremely disappointing. Picture someone with a strong sense of authority, combining the quirkiness of Power Rangers and Sailor Moon, amplified by their awareness of social issues. I was extremely appalled after I finished watching it from Serafal's memories that I felt nauseated for a few minutes and emitted a powerful burst of solar energy. I am determined to go back there and resolve the issue, regardless of the obstacles I may face. I am willing to do whatever it takes to rectify the situation, even if it means making significant changes. I was extremely frustrated to the point where I felt like I could transform into a Super Saiyan 3, bypassing both the first and second forms, solely due to the overwhelming anger. Alternatively, it felt as if I could receive a Red Lantern ring directly from the Butcher, the embodiment of rage. After enjoying a meal with my friends and accompanying them on a shopping trip, I head to my lab. I let out a sigh as I diligently work on my new projects. I am creating a new suit with the assistance of PIM particles. I am utilizing a significant amount of my resources, but currently, I am unable to identify an alternative method to create the desired suit. I step into a door in my lab and find myself in a room that has been magically expanded, significantly increasing its size. I gaze at the magic construction bots diligently crafting my new armor to match the size of the progenitor. They harness the power of my unique abilities to create my latest suit of armor. I carefully examine it and send a precise surge of my expertise towards it, allowing it to absorb and enhance itself. As a result, it radiates with a captivating ethereal glow, occasionally accompanied by subtle sparks of electricity. At unpredictable intervals, the ethereal aura is replaced by a mesmerizing crimson hue. The armor is crafted with a combination of Uru and Vibranium, as well as a unique metal called Mysterium that Jean assisted me in finding. We encountered some challenges, but we found that Jean possesses an incredible ability to summon vast quantities of it. Once she became aware of her power, she effortlessly conjured up an immense amount, comparable to the size of a football field. It took me some time to conceal the evidence. After gaining the necessary expertise, the outcomes of my smelting efforts were truly impressive. Once the metal has cooled, its durability is comparable to secondary adamantium. This material has an exceptional ability to conduct electricity with utmost efficiency while also demonstrating remarkable resistance to heat conduction and retention. I conducted an experiment using an ingot and exposed it to sunlight for a duration of 3 hours. Upon retrieving it through a designated portal to the fortress, I observed minimal warping of the object. Performing magic is truly amazing, even more valuable than pure gold. I successfully overcame the challenge of its anti-magic properties by consistently channeling my magical energy into it throughout the smelting process. The metal's resistance to magic was tested by the Ancient One, who struck weak barriers with it. The barriers cracked slightly before repairing themselves while also causing some damage to the Mysterium weapon. The weapon itself was not particularly impressive as I was still refining the process of creating it. While this talent was satisfactory, what I found next was far better. I fused part of it with Vibranium, and the results were fantastic. In terms of magical properties, the new metal is on par with Uru. Both Mysterium and Vibranium complemented one another, but I didn't stop there. I blended them with Uru, and I about passed out from the sheer potential. The combination of all three metals resonated with one another to the point that each of their particular talents were boosted beyond what they were on their own. While my own version of Uru was infused with Phantom, Crimson, and Speed Force energies, it became even more adaptive as it absorbed my unique energy, giving it some of my attributes. The reason I designed the armor so large was so that I could place runes and other enchantments on it, and when it was shrunk down using PIM particles, I could still utilize it. Granted, the number of PIM particles required for it was ridiculous, and I barely had enough to make it permanent. I was heavily inspired by the Hellbat suit, the armor from Superman Unchained and Superboy Prime's armor, as well as Iron Man and Mandarin from Armored Adventures. The armor may increase my strength, speed, and durability even further, and if sections of it are destroyed or severely damaged, they can heal themselves to some degree thanks to the enchantments put on them. It can also provide me with blue sunshine if need be. While it may seem superfluous with my own personal blue sun, I wanted to be ready for anything. My particular favorite was a small little alteration I made so that if I ever lose my abilities, the armor may provide someone with kryptonian powers. In Smallville, Jonathan Kent was strengthened by the fortress when Clark was high on the substance known as red kryptonite. I was also able to reproduce the properties of the McLuhan rings and include the system that they utilized to empower individuals into the armor, giving me all of the powers of the rings included with the armor. I'm still striving to get access to those abilities on my own. It is fueled by a few arc reactors and sun crystals, and I am continually supplying it with magic. The reactors and solar crystals are typically 6 feet in size before being reduced down. I charge the crystal under the blue sun in the zone. The arc reactors don't do much to energize me, but the energy they generate is readily utilized to charge almost everything. The most significant component of the arc reactors was Mysterium. The reactors create heat, and with the new metal, it is now more stable and powerful. I reforged my sword again, this time adding Mysterium to it. I continued to supervise the development of my new armor as I recall a week ago, when one of the multiverse probes landed at another multiverse, prompting me to declare, "Fuck this shit, I'm done." Flashback: I arrived at the new multiverse perplexed since it seemed to be completely surrounded by a wall of metal with entrances every few kilometers. I transfer the zone tunnel that I'm in over to one of the doors that I can fit through and check that this new multiverse is ringed by metal. There was a scanner on the right side of the entrance, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Secure. Contain. Protect. Fuck this, I exclaim as I turn around and grab the probe, launching it into the vacuum. I return to the zone and terminate the link, but just before I do, I sense myself being watched, which makes me shudder. If there is one location in my new life that I will never go, it is the SCP-verse. Flashback: and I tremble simply recalling being near that spot. I walk out once I see that everything is alright and head over to my spacecraft, which I have modified by reinforcing the hull with Mysterium and replacing part of the machinery with new metal. I asked Carol for a star chart so I could go about, and she handed me one. However, I do not have to utilize the same travel points as they do to go throughout the universe. But first, I want to complete my little magic circle. When I completed adjusting to the DXD verse, I was able to employ their kind of magic. I asked Seraphal if she could teach me, but she could only provide tips owing to one minor technicality. I am kryptonian. I am an unknown in her universe, the only one outside of it who can use it. Devils have their own kind of magic, while humans have their own, which was pioneered by Merlin in DXD. Previously, Merlin required almost every person to execute rites that took too long to complete and were dismal in every respect. I'm aiming to construct my own little magic circle. According to Seraphal, reborn demons can still utilize human magic, but they may enhance it with devil power. They can use both human and demon magic to make it stronger. My goal is to combine DC magic with Marvel and DXD magic. I can already merge DC and Marvel magic, but integrating magic from DXD is tough for one reason. Math: a lot of DXD wizardry involves an astounding level of expertise in several areas: biology, chemistry, and physics, of all things. However, the advantages of utilizing it and maybe integrating it exceed the disadvantages. I go over to another door and open it. Inside, I notice an assembly line for a prototype vision robot that I'm working on. I attempted to build something similar to Amazo from the anime series through the fortress before stopping and wondering whether I should have anything like that. In the show, it quickly grew into someone who not even the entire Justice League could defeat in fight. So I stopped investigating it and created the Vision Army prototype for a single, precise objective. Marvel Zombies: one of the primary reasons I picked the Fortress Crystal and why I am so worried every day. In the comics, they travel from world to universe, infecting others, and many of them are effective in repelling and, in some cases, healing them. The original Marvel Zombies worried me the most since they can feed and absorb the abilities of the creatures they consume. But, to be honest, I'm going to be prepared because when they come, it's not a question of if, but when. I believe that the Sanctum's security makes it impossible for them to identify the Earth via technical methods, but not around the cosmos. If there is one thing I can bank on, it is their voracious appetite for uninfected flesh. The ones I'm concerned about are highly clever zombies that understand multiverse travel. I'm quite sure some of those are beyond me right now. I recall the brood-type zombified Galactus and what had to be done to eliminate him. I believe I can become resistant to the virus by transforming into a pure energy entity. However, doing so would mean losing something truly unique. My body. If I become an energy entity, I will lose my body, which was created by Lord Chaos. Something like that is not worth the risk, but I have a strategy in place. The Golden Sentry Serum 3 weeks ago, Dr. Cornelius completed the serum. I stopped Robert Reynolds from gaining his abilities, preventing the formation of void. I obliterated Dr. Cornelius' recollection of the serum, rendering him unable to do it correctly again. I took all of the research and left them with a little healing serum modeled after the one in the Logan movie, which was fairly intricate all things considered. I also altered their memories. It's not very powerful, but it may reduce someone's 4th degree burns to 2nd degree burns in 5 hours after a syringe of the material, which is around 450 cc. It reminded me of when I first began selling from my space mines and then on Earth. To avoid any legal difficulties, I used my talents to convince others that I obtained them from the planet in the traditional manner. When you break down the abilities Sentry gained from the serum, they are rather impressive. N.A. Sentry full power list in the auxiliary section. The Sentry's abilities include flight, super strength, super speed, energy manipulation and absorption, matter and antimatter manipulation, light and darkness manipulation, teleportation, telekinesis and telepathy, low-level time and reality manipulation, biokinesis, regeneration, near invulnerability to physical attacks, immortality for as long as he wants to live, molecular manipulation, and true resurrection. Not all incarnations of the Sentry have these abilities, since some of them are completely wrecked by comic book authors. However, considering that they have no control over this world. N.A. Just me. Robert would have had access to all of these abilities at 50% of their maximum potential. The Void would have had access to the other half of the power, if I had not prevented him from receiving it. He is now attending treatment to overcome his drug addiction and has sadly divorced his wife after seeing her sleeping with multiple guys in his home. They were already in the process of divorcing at the time. Right now, I'm going through some preparations since I'm certain that injecting or drinking the serum will provide me with the complete advantages. But there is something that I want to test to see whether I am correct. Dr. Cornelius was successful in replicating Erskine's serum, which produced Captain America. However, Cornelius accidentally multiplied the serum's effects by 1,000-fold. If I can collect some of Captain America's blood and compare it to the Sentry serum, I may be able to get the Soldier serum and donate it to someone in need. Like Felicia, she is quite athletic and has practiced magic, but she lacks true skill for the most of it. She can utilize magic to improve her innate powers until she drops out from weariness. She can create weapons and shields, but the issue remains. I even let her draw from my realm, but her body simply can't take it. I ensured she ceased pushing her boundaries after she experienced a day-long loss of consciousness and experienced a nosebleed due to extreme exhaustion. Once I successfully decipher the code for the Super Soldier Serum, I will generously provide it to Felicia so she can stay ahead of the game. Jean has a remarkable ability to manipulate matter, and with continued practice, they will surely become even more proficient in utilizing this power. Hera is gaining a deeper understanding of her own abilities. It is evident that Hera possesses immense power and has not yet realized her complete potential. This pretty much says it all. She is the epitome of expertise in matters of marriage and family. She regards Jean, Felicia, and me as her family, with Amora still a work in progress. It is evident that she possesses the ability to tap into a fraction of our power by virtue of her expertise in safeguarding her family. She possesses an impressive amount of strength that surpasses anyone in this universe. Although we are not yet recognized as her official family, the conflicts arising from her marriage are hindering our connection. If we were to marry, she could potentially tap into even greater sources of power. She clarifies the reason for her inability to draw any power from her family, as they were unwilling to lend it to her. However, the situation depends on the circumstances and her family must be facing some kind of threat. Although this may be a temporary setback, the fact that she can access our powers, especially mine, highlights the flaws of gods. She has a remarkable affinity for magic and, although it took her some time to tap into the fundamental dimensions to harness their power, she has also successfully drawn from my own. This is an accomplishment that neither Felicia nor Jean were able to achieve. She possesses the ability to harness the powers of the Speed Force and Crimson energies. Although the amounts may be small, they still hold significance. She developed a theory that made her slightly embarrassed, and it may appear a bit implausible. However, the first time we engaged in a physical relationship, she willingly committed to being with me. This may have been sufficient for her to view me as her husband in an unofficial capacity. In return, I granted her and others unrestricted access to my dimension, as long as they were prepared to endure the fatigue that accompanies its usage. Dr. Doom stands out as a unique case, as he relies on the zone for fundamental purposes in addition to his self-taught, stamina-based magic. My dimension possesses Speed Force and Crimson energies, and the Phantom Zone itself has adopted some of my characteristics. One aspect of both Speed and Crimson energies may be the cause for it. Both of these energies enable one to become proficient in hosting and utilizing them, transforming into an optimal host. Barry Allen underwent a remarkable transformation, going from a less athletic individual to someone who was greatly impacted by the Speed Force, just like the Juggernaut. Hera's body has become more physically fit, flexible, and stronger. She was pleased with those changes as she can now fight on her own. She gains an impressive boost in strength, allowing her to effortlessly lift an additional 10 tons. However, her speed is limited to just Mach 2 with the Speed Force. Her body emits a weak discharge of lightning, and the Speed Force barrier that protects her clothes from burning off is not very effective, as evidenced by her pants turning into shorts above the knee. She was delighted by her increasing strength. Hello again. I want to express my gratitude for the support you have shown me during this time. I am currently taking care of my nieces and nephew due to a family situation. Thank you for understanding the challenges I am facing. I will provide a comprehensive explanation of kryptonians, their technology, and the connection to Rao in my story. After the crisis with the Anti-Monitor in the comics, kryptonians experienced a significant decrease in power. Superman went from being able to shatter universes to struggling to lift a building. He gradually advanced in his career, but kryptonians still faced significant limitations. It is evident that Superboy Prime's strength remained unaffected by the situation, allowing him to maintain his impressive level of power. DC explained the situation by placing the blame on Rao and attributing the nerf to them. People of Krypton in Rao's era possessed a greater understanding of their abilities. Hell possesses extraordinary abilities such as teleportation and the power to alter the size of others. However, he is unable to change his own size, possibly due to being a clone of multiple Kryptonians, which may have affected this particular ability. Additionally, his encounters with various types of stars have also played a role in shaping his powers. It is worth noting that while Naruto's telekinetic, telepathic abilities are often a topic of discussion, it is not widely recognized that Superman also possesses these powers. It is evident that he employs it effortlessly whenever he engages in combat. Indeed, Superman effortlessly harnesses his telekinetic and telepathic abilities to effortlessly regulate his immense strength on a subconscious level. Similar to how the human brain operates behind the scenes to protect us from harming ourselves with excessive force. Superman's version of this is enhanced by his own telepathic abilities to a much greater degree than ours. Nevertheless, this unintended side effect is quite common and often goes unnoticed. His durability also decreases significantly, making him vulnerable to injury. There is significant speculation surrounding the reasons behind this phenomenon, as some believe it may be attributed to the writer's intentions. It is intriguing to observe how individuals who appear to have limited strength are capable of overpowering him effortlessly. In my story, I aim to create a sense of seamless storytelling without any noticeable authorial influence, which presents a considerable challenge. Considering the fact that most of us would prefer to bask in the sun indefinitely, gaining strength along the way. Although this could significantly enhance the fundamental abilities of a Kryptonian, it is important to note that even with extensive training, we would not be able to reach the extraordinary power levels of Superman Prime 1 million or Superman Gold. Superman has an extensive history of exploring the universe and potentially even the multiverse, as suggested in the comics he has appeared in. He acquired additional abilities that are completely unrelated to his original powers. The implication is that he surpasses all others in the Superman dynasty, including the combined strength of Kal Kent and his past self. During an intense battle between Supergirl and a powerful Kryptonian Magi, an astonishing revelation comes to light. Supergirl possesses an untapped well of magical abilities that had remained hidden within her until now. I apologize if my attempt at creating my own version of the lore was confusing for some readers. I understand that I may have not executed it correctly or dropped off the information in a way that caused confusion. I apologize for any inconvenience caused. Naruto discovered additional information about the Kryptonian Magi while researching the files of the fortress. It was revealed that a select group of Kryptonians managed to retain their magical abilities, despite them being stripped away by Rao as a form of punishment. Interestingly, certain deities within the Kryptonian pantheon opposed this decision and covertly restored magic to a small number of individuals, ensuring its continuation after the conflict between Rao and Saithana. Rao eliminated them due to their actions, recognizing that their absence would hinder his ability to defeat Saithana in the event of her return. Rao utilized the residual energies from Saithana to enhance the emotional detachment of Kryptonians. Based on extensive research and analysis of Kryptonian history, it becomes apparent that there is a correlation between the actions of certain deities and the limitations placed on their creations. It can be inferred that Rao played a significant role in weakening and restricting the potential of his people. In the future, the Council of Krypton has been established and has implemented various laws, including one that prohibits the conception of children through natural means. This decision was made after the exploration of space and the establishment of outposts. It is evident that a significant tragedy occurred when a group of Kryptonian Magi unintentionally summoned a formidable demon, resulting in the devastating loss of a large portion of the Kryptonian population. After a considerable amount of time, they successfully developed clones by combining the genetic material of a male and female to create a child. One unintended consequence was that this significantly hindered the progress of natural selection. It was during this time that Rao recognized an opportunity to maintain control over his people, who were beginning to regain their emotions and venture beyond his influence, leading to the sun turning red. Over time, Rao skillfully orchestrated a series of events that rapidly spun out of control. He skillfully influenced the Council of Krypton to dismiss magic, placing the blame on the Magi and instigating their own form of witch hunts. They withdrew the individuals stationed at the outposts and terminated the project, prompting the Magi to conceal themselves just before their numbers dwindled. They started having children together, but this led to inbreeding among them. Eventually, they could only access one type of Kryptonian magic: water, air, fire, or crystal. Every individual can only be one of those. They needed to utilize all of them. Amidst the happenings in the regular part of Krypton, they started encountering similar problems with inbreeding due to the clone/codex process. These issues were frequently accompanied by bursts of arrogance and a dearth of creativity. There was a growing belief that Kryptonians had achieved perfection as a civilization, leading them to halt all space travel activities, except for the purpose of defending against invasions. After years of this recurring situation, we finally encounter a couple who had a child named Kara Zor-El. She was born before Kal-El, a result of the circumstances surrounding Kryptonians no longer being permitted to conceive children through natural means. Her father took precautions to protect her mother during the pregnancy. Her name, Kara, was chosen in honor of one of the Kryptonian goddesses of beauty when she came into this world. From a young age, Kara displayed remarkable intelligence that surpassed her peers. It was evident that she had a deeper emotional awareness compared to other Kryptonian children of her time. She easily noticed the distinctions between herself and other recorded children, which left her feeling disconnected from her own community. Kara demonstrated a high level of creativity, often coming up with unique and unconventional ideas. Regrettably, Zor-El started to develop the belief that Kara's natural talents were attributed to his genes. He developed a sense of superiority and started to test Kara's abilities. He carefully examined her DNA and observed significant variations between them. Kara's DNA was superior to that of Zor-El and his wife. Unbeknownst to him, Zor-El's family had a greater understanding of the problem of cloning inbreeding that was occurring. They meticulously chose genes from distant houses over the course of several decades to combat inbreeding, although this process was primarily kept confidential. This implies that they contacted other establishments and executed a unique codex-style replication process that reduced the harm and initiated repairs to their DNA. However, their increasing fame as a result of their achievements attracted close attention and scrutiny. Zor-El was created using the standard codex style to maintain a low profile for an extended period of time. Jor-El was born through a unique codex-style birth, while Zor-El, who was 8 at the time, discovered their secret and kept it to himself into adulthood. At the age of 19, Jor-El gained recognition as one of the most intelligent individuals from Krypton, sparking ongoing debates. At the age of 23, he crossed paths with Lara, who would later become his wife. His family chose Jor-El to be the next leader of the House of El, and shortly before he was officially appointed, Zor-El. Upon witnessing Lara with Jor-El, he felt a pang of jealousy, and his fury grew when he was overlooked for the position of head of the House of El. He started devising strategies to disrupt Jor-El's life. He did not succeed thanks to his family's connections. He was able to establish a link between the House of El and the House of Zod. The outcome was not satisfactory. Dru-Zod, the renowned general of Krypton, developed a close friendship with Jor-El. As this situation unfolded, resources on Krypton started becoming scarce and energy problems started to arise. As the story progresses, the Council made the decision to mine the core, resulting in Brainiac's arrival and the subsequent capture of Argo City. It was during this time that Kal-El, also known as Superman, was born, and Krypto, his loyal companion, was sent to Earth. Kara, who was 14 at the time, discreetly left Krypton a few hours earlier with a piece of DNA from her parents, Zor-El and Lara. Finally, Kal-El was sent as well. I made an effort to maintain a certain level of quality, but I must admit that I don't anticipate all of it to be successful. I wasn't satisfied with the storyline I initially created, so I decided to remove a portion of it and take it in a different direction. Naruto's POV: I'm putting the Sentry Serum away for now. My next research is on the X gene and how to get it for myself. Charles's study into the blank X gene, which is dormant, is intended to offer someone random abilities. Depends on the universe. Charles observed that changing an already activated X gene might result in significant mental stability, and he was able to readily identify those with an inactive X gene. The findings were intriguing, since all of the trial tests were successful. He was able to very much copy and paste someone else's abilities and place them in the blank X gene, so that when it was activated, the powers that were copied manifested alongside the one he got. In rare situations, the abilities were possible to combine. For example, if someone's dormant gene was mixed with someone's who can manipulate fire, the ultimate result would be the entire pyrokinetic ability set. The only people who know enough about the X gene are Nathaniel, Essex and Apocalypse, and potentially the Celestials, depending on whose versions I'm stuck with. Essex would be my best bet, but I could also try Apocalypse. In the end, he gave Essex his original authority. I could also attempt to steal Apocalypse's heavenly spacecraft, which taught him all he knows and gave him his god complex with his adoptive father. I'm not sure if I can cope with the stronger Celestials, since most of their abilities aren't described clearly in the comics, and they're claimed to be able to replicate pretty much every other ability out there with cosmic energy. Granted, I'm quite sure I can murder them as many times as I want, but doing so may catch the notice of the Fulcrum and, by implication, Lord Chaos. I am not sure precisely. N.A. Not to be confused with Power Cosmic, the two are extremely different. Time jump 2 days later, I let out a sigh and stroked the back of my neck. Even though I'm not in pain, it's a habit that has stuck with me. I've been waiting for the DNA scanner to complete interpreting my own. Finding the genuine Essex was more easy than expected. He hid really effectively, yet I still see him all around the planet. I can see and hear everything on Earth with incredible detail, almost as if I were there in the same room with him while in the atmosphere. I pulled the facts out of him quicker than he expected and wiped all memory of our interaction. Dealing with his failing clones, however, was painful. Some of them become fully sentient, conducting experiments on innocent people. There is no one who was actually tortured by the real Essex. He solely experiments on the filth of the earth. For example, Charles is someone he is willing to try with. Thinking about the individuals he tests on, I recall going over to aid a lady who was being attacked and being unsurprised by the outcome. People attempted to ambush me while trying to take advantage of a lady, which did not work. They were attempting to assassinate me since I had essentially eliminated a large portion of the Magia from New York, despite the fact that the fortress's primary mission is to expose their operations. It doesn't help that Felicia is ripping them blind. I can also hear and read their thoughts. So far, I've gotten the attention of many groups who want me dead, but they can't come up with anything. People have spoken out against me, but they can't do anything since I'm traveling across the globe helping people rather than just the United States, which isn't an issue for me, but for some, it seems like I've betrayed my country. I had the Jackal who was guarding one of the McLuhan rings serve as both my Barry Allen and pseudo-Black Flash. While he would have been drawing on the Speed Force, he may now use his speed to generate more for me for the one very modest power I have. Superman Vision: prolonged use of this skill to someone will provide them kryptonian abilities. It took a week for the jackal to retain his abilities permanently. Thanks to my flawed adaptation, I was able to ensure that he only received the abilities of a kryptonian magi with a modified core to create speed force energy for me, as well as instinctive understanding of how to employ the basic power set. Fortunately, this provided him with a significant jump in IQ, enough for him to be able to understand complicated topics such as magic, despite the fact that he is just a novice, and he has only recently learned how to mimic my mental shields, which is still a work in progress. He is now assisting in the sanctums with very deadly entities. Last week, he battled off Nightmare. This was a surprise, but a pleasant one since it means I now have someone who can assist me. While that may sound like a poor notion, consider the promises that people may make, and he pledged to be faithful to me forever. I shake my head as I make my way over to where the girls are before heading to our new house. I make my way to the fortress's gateway and reflect on the sacred gears I hold. I researched them alongside Null's and his brother's recollections and discovered how their promise was never realized in the manga. I read the manga and just watched season 1 since I didn't enjoy the anime too much. They are more strong than Seraphal realizes. She was astonished by what I learned. Null, who has taken over a version of his brother, is well versed in the sacred gears and the defects that his brother intended to correct, known as balance breakers. But what piqued my curiosity the most was their capacity to absorb stuff and develop. I'd want to see someone from Fairy Tail wield sacred gear and really ruin everyone. I have a plan to combine boosted gear and divine dividing with my new gear, and I can't wait. Although both gears are not yet up to par with what Issei and Valley had, here's where their growth comes into play. In the manga, the holy gears developed depending on the user's wants and wishes, with historical consequences, which I can completely disregard. In the manga, Issei lost a significant chunk of his life energy since devils were known to live almost indefinitely. Devils and the majority of creatures in DxD experience injuries, and although they may recover, a little amount of scar tissue remains, and they may die looking as they did in their prime, but some sections of the body no longer function properly. This is why Phoenix Tears are so popular in DxD. Seraphal informed me that a person in DxD was able to create a stone that replicated the impact of weeping. That guy was Nicholas Flamel, a great alchemist who was revealed in DxD to be one of the few true alchemists. Most of them didn't reveal their secrets, and their knowledge died with them. I discovered that there were many fakes in DxD, which gave them a terrible reputation. When Flamel created the Philosopher's Stone, the factions took attention since he looked like a 70-year-old man. But after utilizing the stone, he seemed to be 35. According to the documents that Seraphal studied, the liquid produced by the stone was as effective as a phoenix tear. According to Fenig's tests, tears may accomplish the same thing to humans. However, he was pursued and slain by, wait for it, the Catholic Church. Why is it always them? I asked myself. They retained the stone and attempted to utilize it for themselves, but were surprised to discover that they could not do it without the assistance of a skilled alchemist. Seriously, why always them? I thought to myself as I exited the portal. As I approached them, everything was practically packed, and I could hear the same sort of gateway used by the inheritors to go. I immediately excused myself and walked out to meet them, who I saw astonished me. Time skip 3 months later. Naruto's POV a few months earlier, a version of Peter appeared via a gateway created by the new Weaver. Karn. They successfully defeated the inheritors once and for all. I permanently murdered some of the inheritors, preventing them from transferring their souls to their clone bodies. He thanked me for assisting them, however unwittingly. He quickly fled, but I offered to assist if another entity attempted to pursue them. It's only a question of when, not if. I've been working on my projects, and I chose to wait a little longer before utilizing the Golden Sentry Serum for many reasons. There is one item I recalled that will assist me, and it is on Asgard. The Lifeline tablet. The serum derived from it promotes self-healing and allows its user to reach the full evolutionary potential of their race. However, because most users' bodies are not strong enough or use all of the energy before it can stabilize, they lose the power but retain some healing properties. Vita radiation stabilized and improved the serum used on Steve Rogers. The serum's effects would have been less pronounced if it had not been exposed to radiation. What I'm most curious about is if it can stabilize Golden Sentry Serum when blended with other ingredients. If it does, it will give me greater authority than ever before. The Golden Sentry Serum combined with the Lifeline Serum, and potentially additional serums. I'm thrilled simply thinking about it. Robert Reynolds took the Sentry Serum sans Vita Rays and became one of the most powerful chemically enhanced creatures out there, but psychologically disturbed. The AUG Super Soldier Serum magnifies everything about the user, good and bad. The Golden Sentry Serum multiplied the effects by 1,000, or 100,000, or 10,000, depending on the universe. While in terms of strength and speed, it may not be very useful, the additional abilities it will provide me make it well worth it. While investigating the serums, I collected a few heart-shaped plants from Wakanda. I also read the minds of those who prepare the plant for consumption, which was very simple all things considered. If all goes well, I'll give Felicia a serum including the Super Soldier Serum and a heart-shaped plant fortified by Vita Rays. Breaking the link to Bast and setting up my own was simple owing to Anathema and my own realm. She has not responded because she is either biding her time with other gods, has not yet recognized, or just does not care. Felicia is languishing more than ever. She's determined to study magic. The Holy Gears movement has temporarily stalled. The Holy Gears are horribly shattered, literally. I was able to establish that the balance breakers are just faults in the system. If someone had access to the system in heaven and knew how to use it when Issei first utilized Juggernaut Drive, they could simply write in the equivalent of Control plus Delete and there would be no more Juggernaut Drive. Null's adjustments to each of them were mostly bugs. People used their life energy, magic, and emotions to create the balance breakers. Stamina may also be utilized to activate and operate the sacred gears, although they grow fatigued rapidly. The sacred gears must be attached to a highly unique system in order to function well. One that I will be able to recreate in my own realm using the creator's memory of the system. The exchange of vital energy, also known as life force, is required for a sacred gear to shift to its user's desired state. After that, I create my own system in my dimension and let it to do its thing. All I have to do is wait. The deity of the Bible in DXD was undoubtedly a master of his trade. Even I find the system he created to be strong and confusing. I'm talking about a system that pushes itself to its limits and develops stronger as the stress increases. Provided that someone is there to correct the flaws and keep things under control so that they do not blow out. However, it may also crash in the same way as a computer does. Consider uploading hundreds of games to a supercomputer and running them all at the same time. The programs are called sacred gears, and the machine is known as a supercomputer. Balance breaker may be called modifications, for want of a better term. Too many modifications, particularly those that are incompatible with one another, might cause the game to malfunction. Some modifications may make a character more powerful, such as invincibility in Dark Souls or the ability to one-hit every adversary in a game. If enough essential energy is supplied, the balance breakers have the potential to reach such a level. The quality of the life force is also an important consideration. When a normal person acquires a mutant balance breaker based on their wishes, it takes a few years off that individual. I'm thinking Issei shattered the boosted gear when he placed Albion's gem inside to get divine dividing abilities. However, this left him with at least 150 years of life remaining. I am always creating life force due to the blue sun in my realm and the yellow sun on Earth. What level can I reach? I wondered to myself as I gazed at the stars through the ceiling from my bed, gazing out over the whole home with numerous people alongside me. Jean, Hera, Felicia and Amora. I've been bringing them out on dates and spending time with them. I have not spent all of my time working on projects. Thinking about Hera reminds me of the gods out there. I'm taking preparations against any gods who may do anything, and I've contacted Hades, who is now free. The underworld he reigns over is hardly populated, and with Olympus' demise, he and Hera are the only survivors, around 2 persons each week. I described my dimension to him, and he was interested. Finally, we agreed that we would shift the Greek underworld to my plane, but not for a long time. One of the other reasons I haven't taken the serum yet is because I'm waiting till I reach a neutron star. I'm hoping it will give me an aptitude for space magic. I can use spells to bend space around me, but it requires a lot of power and calculations. There are a few wizards at Kamar Taj who have an aptitude for space magic, which they discovered and wield instinctively. I recall in the comics when Hel initially appeared and transported, and some people speculated that his space manipulation abilities improved with more exposure to that sort of radiation over time. I went out to nuclear material buried far down and absorbed the energy. On the good side, the radiation is no longer present. On the contrary, there are no new powers or abilities. A few minutes later, the girls wake up, and we prepare for the day. Several hours later, I'm presently in my final lesson with Natasha, and I'm wondering how my crops are going. I have to cultivate my own food since the food that is marketed contains chemicals that, combined with my super tongue, make it taste totally horrible. I can't even eat most junk foods anymore. I purchased property and established many farms, from which I am currently profiting. Thanks to kryptonian technology, I am making gradual but steady progress in the field of agriculture. I looked at the board and immediately realized what we were meant to be studying. At this point, I'm just remaining with Jean and Felicia in school because they want to graduate, and a tiny part of me wants to graduate too. I glance at Natasha, and I can see her emotions are a turmoil. She starts detailing our weekly duties. The bell sounds, and I grab my belongings and begin to go out. "Mr. Kent, could you stay for a few minutes?" Natasha said as I passed through the classroom while the other kids asked questions regarding the project. I wait around 3 minutes before everyone else leaves the classroom. She goes to the door and shuts it before turning to face me, and I just watch her approach. She is just a few feet away from me. "I need your help," she adds with a strain in her voice. "With what?" I advised her just to be cautious, as I sense she is struggling not to break down. "My sister, Yelena, is dead," she whispered as a few tears streamed down her cheeks. I could see blood trickling from her clasped fists as she made herself bleed from the palms. I gaze at her in astonishment before approaching her and hugging her, while she buried her face in my chest as I embrace her, shivering and holding back tears. "I want you to help me hunt the bastards that did it," she continued, going to gaze at me. "Okay, I will help you," I said her as we stared into one another's eyes. We both pushed closer, and as our lips almost met, I exclaimed, "Let's go." I would have spoken more before the distinct sound of the Bifrost reached my ears. Nick Fury's POV. I'm smiling as I gaze at the results of Naruto's effort, but my eye is twitching. "Fury, do your fucking job and stop that." He began as a member of the World Security Council before pissing me off. "You are telling me to do my job? Very well," I interrupted with an honest-to-God smile on my face. "This is going to be amazing." I grab one of my weapons and shoot the guy in the knee as he collapses, weeping. "I have always wanted to do this," I muttered to myself. "I am going to do my job and send you to the wolves," I informed him, nuzzling my rifle into his skull. "You have been very naughty," I informed him, as information about this individual was disclosed, revealing that he sold state secrets to various groups across the globe. One in particular. Hydra. I shift to the side as someone enters the room. The guy who just arrived has a determined expression as I gaze at his shield, which still has to be painted. I was ready to phone Widow, but then recalled she had broken ties with S.H.I.E.L.D. owing to my predecessor's activities with the Red Room. One of the council members directed Clint Barton to assassinate Yelena Belova without knowing who the target was, as he had been provided incorrect information. Fortunately, she doesn't have someone to turn to. Shit Naruto POV. I recently informed Natasha that Clint murdered her sister by mistake. She took it well, I thought to myself as I looked around the room where she screwed up. We are presently at her apartment since she informed me that she quit S.H.I.E.L.D. a few weeks ago after learning about their links to the Red Room. Nothing Fury attempted, even threats to disclose her ledger, succeeded. Given how much trash they're dealing with right now, I doubt they'll be going after her anytime soon. I glance down and find Natasha asleep on my chest after forcing me to embrace her. I peek outside and find the sun is going set. After reading practically everyone on the planet's minds, it was simple to figure out who murdered her. Unfortunately, it happened when I was working on my projects. I take out my phone and send a signal to a unique robot that I have recreated and upgraded beyond anything the Marvel Multiverse has ever seen. Inspired by the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Vision and the Eradicator. A synthezoid capable of defeating a large number of entities throughout the Marvel cosmos. I glance up and see it floating above the clouds as I call for it on my phone. A combination of Uru, adamantine, true adamantium, mysterium, and vibranium. This alone makes it strong, but I went even farther. The MCU Vision biological material was human, but my synthezoid organic material is kryptonian. It was tough to get all of the metals together without clashing. Uru and mysterium were difficult to cope with. In contrast, vibranium was in high demand. The vibranium itself was the simplest to combine with kryptonian material. True adamantium had several difficulties, but they were all easily resolved. Adamantine was surprisingly simple to mix. I would have included Antarctic vibranium, but it really caused more difficulties than it solved. After completing the basic synthezoid design, I considered how to bring the Eradicator to life, which was simple given the organic material available. In Smallville, the Fortress was able to give Jonathan Kent the complete range of kryptonian abilities. He didn't utilize them to their full potential since he didn't know how or what they were. It also placed so much pressure on his body that he died as a result of his heart's inability to handle it. Which was utter BS. Jor-El's AI may have given him kryptonian skills without the Fortress's energy. Jor-El's AI gave him those cardiac problems on purpose. Granted, Clark was extraordinarily powerful because to the Crimson Kryptonite, creating something similar to the Eradicator would have needed a few changes to the empowerment mechanism as well as some magic. It was challenging to create anything like this. The Eradicator's most common feature is that he is a creature formed of living energy, which is difficult enough on its own, therefore merging with the Synthezoid proved difficult. Fortunately, the Stronghold already had an Eradicator within it. Or rather, in the Phantom Zone, Chem-El, a member of a distant branch of the House of El, was a fervent xenophobe who desired to preserve Krypton pure. So he built a specialized computer with a software to create the Eradicator and hid in the Phantom Zone. It surprised me that he was able to fold the space in the zone, and it took me some time to figure it out based on my own research on space magic and technology. The computer was a little crest from the House of El that could imbue someone or anything with the Eradicator. This is significant since most versions of the Eradicator are believed to be the AI of the spacecraft Kal-El used to arrive on Earth, which came into touch with technology obtained from Kal's wars with his foes and eventually came into contact with the healing matrix used to bring Kal back to life. My rendition of him is based on the comics, which makes things much more complicated. There is no way anybody could have predicted that Kryptonians get amazing abilities from several stars. This leads me to conclude that either someone informed him or he discovered it by mistake and kept it a secret. Fortunately, his xenophobia worked in my advantage, and I just needed to go through the House of El trials to obtain complete control of the Eradicator. There is still the mystery of how Chem-El came upon the technology to create something like this. Even when compared to Kryptonian technology, the method the crest was created differs significantly from anything else in the Fortress archives. But that's for another day. The Synthezoid is above the clouds near my location, and I send it a message requesting that it deliver me the Power Stone or at least direct me to the approximate region where I may teleport. All this time, I believed I had everything under control, but Yelena's death taught me something different. I have been too confident in my own ability and expertise, but that is not sufficient. I swiftly phase through Natasha, being cautious not to injure her, and summon another Synthezoid to protect her while I go check what Thor does firsthand. I didn't simply create one with the resources I had. Why stop with just one? I've got one protecting Natasha. I flew out and finished summoning my armor. Mysterium, Uru, and Vibranium are used, along with a little amount of Adamantine, Phantom, Crimson, and Speed Force energy. My armor was done. My greatest creation till now. I thought as my armor lighted up with a massive quantity of runes and billions of small magic circles appeared in such a short period of time that I doubt anybody would have seen. Mixing all four magics from DxD, Marvel, Asgardian runes, and DC was very difficult. While I am a Kryptonian magi, my understanding of DC magic is quite limited. I looked into it more, and the conflicting findings were somewhat confounding. I attempted the backward speak Zatanna employs to cast spells, and although it seems to function as intended, the entire intent thing and the energy cost are excessive for what I needed to do. Elbitgert said it is indestructible backwards, saying that while attempting to perform the spell completely tired me, the magical effort was too great for my physical body. I recovered minutes later in the blue sun of the zone, but that was all. My energy reserves were good. Even if my magical reserves were okay, the massive quantity of magical input that I got had wrecked my body. Something I didn't expect to experience because of my physical limitations. I attempted it 6 more times and, owing to my adaptation, was able to recover and improve. The first time I attempted, I got to the second letter of the spell Elbitgert said indestructible. The second time, I came to a halt at the third and, for whatever reason, was unable to continue because my body felt immobilized until I quit attempting to speak it. This is a problem since I still can't utter more than 3 characters in it. My adaptability and regeneration systems were working hard to cope with my wrecked body. I've now concluded that my body was unprepared to cope with such magical harm, which makes sense given that the original Doomsday was alive for millions of years. I'm sure he came across races who could use magic somewhere along the way and eventually adapted to them. My tests were the first time I pushed my body with magical blowback, since before I was only able to do so by emptying my core. The spells I wish to cast need a cost in my core and body. Fortunately, I was able to cast enchantments that combined all 4 magics to improve the durability of my armor. The armor features self-repair, enhanced durability, self-cleaning, increased strength, increased speed, increased healing speed, and a large number of boosted resistances. Each of the little magical rings has protective spells that combine all 4 magics. The helmet enables me to utilize my heat vision, and the mouthpiece opens to discharge my frozen breath or super breath. One of the finest parts is the technology that Charles provided to help me improve my telepathy. I can extend my telepathy across the solar system. Hearing everyone's thoughts on Earth so plainly was disturbing at first, but it was manageable. The armor may also be removed and attached to a fortress crystal, allowing it to function independently. I fly over to where Thor is, shield myself from Heimdall, and peek on the moon. As I reach, I see him in the hospital, just as he receives a sedative to the buttocks. I giggle to myself because it's much amusing in person. When I look at Thor, he seems more like his version of Avengers Earth's mightiest heroes, with a little of his MCU appearance. So much to do, I tell myself. N.A. Hello everyone, I know I have been a little concerned with life at the moment, but be assured that I am not leaving any of my tales. Take care everyone. Naruto Pav. I glance down at Thor, who seems dejected and lost. He's now in a makeshift questioning room. It's been a few hours since he attempted to retrieve his hammer, which was a little more dramatic since he wept when he discovered he couldn't lift it. Looking at the supposed god crying seems very underwhelming, said Jean, mentally floating beside me. We haven't seen him use his power yet, although it does seem muted, I may say, said Hera in our heads. You said that Asgard has halls of gold, correct? Felicia asked me to confirm. Yes, I informed her in a dubious tone, despite how permissive I am about her going against guys like Fisk or the Magia. I don't want her to upset Odin just yet. I also haven't informed her that I can manufacture gold using my own air mage, which, I am sure, would permanently desensitize her to gold, notwithstanding her preference for silver. I did not try to keep it a secret. Interesting, Thor being this weak is rather frustrating. If what you said to me is something his family did to all Asgardians, I will hate Odin even more, Amora stated as she studied Thor's blood sample, which I had taken from the hospital. Amora, Hera, and Felicia have returned home, while Jean is attempting to do the same. Serafal is making headlines by managing the firm I founded months ago. Her experience with the organization has been beneficial. I've been paying her around 60% of the proceeds once everything else has been paid off. Undoubtedly, she is ambitious. Her personality is also quite different from the manga. She is more serious and shows evident indications of PTSD, as well as a desire for vengeance against the null of her reality. I did seek for Ajuka in the universe and the period from where she originated. He wasn't present at all. I searched everywhere I could think of and used all of my senses, but I couldn't locate him, which indicates he's in a different time period or he successfully traveled the time that was initially intended. I'd attempt to travel, but the time rules of DxD are far more strict in terms of time travel, and my Speed Force, for all of its might, is still relatively young. While I could make the journey, I'd have to wait for the requisite energy to be produced. The original Speed Force has existed for an unfathomable length of time, as well as several timelines and worlds. My Speed Force is just starting to alter this time frame. It would take me around 80% of it to complete the journey, leaving me with only 20%. Because my link corresponds to the time when Serafal occurred, I would need to return there for a stronger connection. But that's the thing about time travel. We only have to wait till my Speed Force has enough energy to complete the journey comfortably. Serafal has been practicing when she has the time, and she recognizes that time is actually on her side, so she's taking her time becoming stronger, but she's not taking it easy since she's experimenting with Marvel magic. I mostly focus on the one I provide to others. A large number of individuals are now using energy from the zone. I've developed a reputation for being generous with my energy, and all I need is a little more stamina than usual to utilize it, as well as a reputation for not being toyed with when some attempted to utilize my powers for heinous actions. I made certain they feared and respected my name, especially with Victor's crusade against those who wanted to dominate him, which would have failed otherwise. I won his total devotion by not being an asshole and not attempting to screw him over, and his taking an oath of friendship sealed the deal. Right now, he is having Mephistopheles force his own bitches, and he has already killed Blackheart forever. He used him as his personal attack dog against Mephisto and others. He imprisoned him down to the very notion of his life by forcing him to swear a series of vows that entirely destroyed any prospect of escape by exploiting gaps in them. This helped me grasp Victor Von Doom's full potential. I may have made matters worse by granting him access to the vast majority of my rare metals, with the exception of a handful. When he's not doing that, he's striving to improve his nation even more. Plus, using links to my organization, he has been able to start up several small enterprises in America. We have started to make an impact on the globe, although gradually. However, some fools have finally emerged as friends of humanity. Thankfully, my reputation as Superman has deterred them since they began attempting to assassinate young children who had awakened their talents. I gave those people no compassion. They were ready to harm a child for being unique. If they choose to behave like animals, they will be treated accordingly. I have made my position more explicit by disclosing intentions to conduct experiments and utilize them for military purposes. Given my commitment to assisting individuals with unique abilities, I make it a priority to rescue and provide support to those who possess extraordinary powers. I ensure that they are directed to Magneto or Emma, depending on their specific mental challenges. I consistently arrive before anyone else, not even giving them the opportunity to try. I have already made plans to select an uninhabited planet and transform it into a habitable zone, where I will relocate the inhabitants. They may not be desired by typical individuals, but they are still human beings. Emma has a stronger preference for this plan compared to Eric, as it offers everyone an opportunity to begin anew. One concern is that if I were to take them, it could potentially leave the Earth vulnerable to attacks. Some individuals have been utilizing their abilities to assist others, yet unfortunately, they are often met with disdain and mistreatment from ordinary people. Some individuals continue to persist and offer their assistance, hoping that their efforts will eventually be acknowledged. Despite my reservations, I have been discreetly providing them with financial assistance, as well as offering them food, shelter, and even some medical aid. I am always available to provide assistance and ensure that their intentions are clear if they find themselves overwhelmed. Although I must admit that I am not a saint or a true hero, I strive to assist others to the best of my abilities. The most powerful individuals are only at an alpha level, while the others are comparatively weaker. However, I have also been researching their X genes. While many of their powers are underwhelming, I did come across a few alpha-level metahumans who caught my attention, even though their abilities may not be particularly powerful or useful to me. I observe Thor as he engages in conversation with someone in a slightly distorted image within my field of vision. However, with a little more concentration, I am able to clearly discern Loki. He bears a resemblance to Tom Hiddleston and what appears to be his counterpart in AEMH. However, there is a peculiar aspect to his presence, even in his projected form, that exudes a strong sense of authority, almost as if there is a constant struggle within him. What's going on with him? I'm curious. Thor's perspective. I instinctively raise my gaze when I sense someone's presence. I initially believed it was Heimdall, but then I spot a mirage that I instantly identify as Loki. Loki, what brings you here? I greet him with enthusiasm, eager to see him, but he only gazes at me with a serious expression. I needed to meet with you, he stated. Allow me to clarify, Father, about Jotunheim. Father is deceased, he interjected. What? I inquire, taken aback. Your banishment, the threat of a new war, it was too much for him to bear, he confesses, leaving me overwhelmed with shame and disgust for my actions. You shouldn't blame yourself. I understand that you had genuine feelings for him. I made an effort to communicate this to him, but unfortunately, he was unwilling to listen, he says, continuing. It's quite unfortunate to have the hammer so close, knowing it's beyond your capabilities to lift. It is now my responsibility to bear the weight of the throne. Third-person point of view, may I return home? Thor asked with optimism. The truce with Jotunheim is contingent upon your banishment, Loki stated. Is there a possibility to find a solution? Thor was in the middle of something when Loki once again interrupted him. Mother has forbidden your return. She holds you responsible for father's death, Loki said, witnessing a few tears slipping from Thor's eyes. This is farewell, brother, said Loki. I apologize, Loki said as Thor appeared defeated. The expression in his eyes revealed a deep sense of shame, self-hatred, and disgust. No, I apologize. Thank you for coming here, said Thor, struggling to hold back his tears. Goodbye, Loki said with a heavy heart. Loki turns away from his brother and continues walking, catching the sound of his brother's voice. Goodbye, Thor says as Agent Coulson enters the room. Goodbye, I just returned, he responds with confusion. Loki's perspective at last years of meticulous preparation for this pivotal moment. I have acquired the Odin Force and obtained the hammer. I thought to myself as I reached out and grabbed it. Initially, there is no movement, but with the utilization of my expertise, I tap into the Odin Force and successfully nullify the enchantment that requires someone to be deemed worthy, as it promptly acknowledges my presence. Aside from one small detail, as I carefully analyze it and delve deeper into Odin's memories to uncover the truth of what he did to Thor, I can't help but feel a sense of amusement at my father's lack of understanding and his concerns about this so-called Superman. From what I can gather, it seems clear that he will not pose any real threat. I squint, realizing that I am unable to access older memories as they are mostly blurred. I maintain a composed demeanor as I watch my illusionary creation fade away, making my way towards Odin's newly furnished chamber. Resting in a casket, I find myself in the presence of my father in a deep slumber, accompanied by a Heimdall who is missing both arms and legs. Fandral, Hogun, and Volstag's heads are positioned nearby. As I turn my head and confidently raise my scepter, I command Odin to grant me access to the vast depths of knowledge he has guarded so closely. He continues to challenge me, and although I lack experience, I am able to overcome his defenses with the power of the scepter. I just need to remember to summon the hammer when necessary. Despite being on Midgard, it will arrive in a few hours. I become concerned when I notice something troubling Odin, causing me to feel uneasy. I have a sister and she possesses the majority of the Odin Force, I muttered to myself in astonishment. I raise my voice, his power will be mine, as it rightfully should have been from the beginning. Naruto's perspective I simply observe as Mjolnir soars into the vastness of space. What are your intentions, Loki? I wonder. The hammer went flying back to Asgard, Amora communicated telepathically. How do you know? Inquired Hera. Whenever the hammer is summoned, its power radiates like a guiding light. That's why Thor often chooses to lead the charge in battle, as those who possess Asgardian magic can detect when the hammer is being wielded. She responded. Why am I unable to perceive it then? I inquired. I think it could be related to your dimensional lord status. Although your version of rune magic and the one I'm familiar with have similarities, they are fueled by different magical energies. This is just a theory, but it could provide an explanation. Amora shrugged, indicating indifference. I can somewhat perceive it, possibly due to my ability to perceive the entire electromagnetic spectrum and the assistance of my magical side, I remarked while observing Thor being questioned once more. I can sense that he is struggling with a lot of negative emotions, Jean observed, tapping into Thor's emotional state. From what Loki said, he also has a lot to feel ashamed of, Hera remarked, her attention evident through our telepathic bond. Well, he has been through some incredibly challenging situations. He found himself in a place where he could potentially face danger and isolation, with no support from his family. Additionally, his own people may hold resentment towards him for his involvement in a near war. On top of that, he has had to deal with the threats from the Skyfathers and their pantheons, who have targeted Naruto, said Felicia. She is not incorrect, responded Amora after a brief pause. While many Asgardians may find enjoyment in the occasional skirmish, engaging in a full-scale war is not something that we generally favor, unless one possesses a particularly bloodthirsty nature. She expressed her growing concern about the silence of most of the Skyfathers. Despite the potential for retribution, they have yet to take any action. That's what concerns me the most with Zeus gone. While he may not have been well liked by the others, he was still a member, and they all requested Gaia to eliminate you once they realized they couldn't manipulate you. I even suspect that the Fates might have attempted to harm you, but so far, there has been an eerie silence. Hera has been included. I don't have much personal experience with the Fates, but they can be quite challenging, said Felicia as she sent an image of what she is doing. Conducting extensive research on various mythologies for a specific objective. To acquire their most valuable possessions, not that I have any objections, as some individuals certainly deserve it and it might also bring their focus onto us. Antagonizing immortal beings who already have a desire to harm us appears to be unwise. I couldn't help but sweat drop a bit when I saw the artifacts that Felicia wanted to steal. Well, she certainly has a strong drive, remarked the others as they observed Felicia's planning board, which she graciously shared with us. As I finally catch a glimpse of Jane Foster, I can't help but notice that she bears little resemblance to Natalie Portman. Instead, she appears to be a blend of her AEMH and 616 iterations. Thor examines a jacket labeled Donald Blake that has been bestowed upon him, while Coulson instructs agents to monitor his activities closely. I take flight, my mind filled with curiosity about the plans of the Skyfathers, when suddenly I receive a notification from one of the Eradicators. The one I sent following the Power Stones. Soon, there will be 4 Infinity Stones on Earth, a significant development that has captured my attention. Additionally, I didn't merely send it to acquire the Power Stone, but also to gather radiation from various stars for my own purposes. Finally, the time has come for me to truly recreate the zone for myself, I thought, as I prepared to acquire 2 distinct sources of power for myself, just before obtaining the perfect Sentry Serum. Naruto's point of view: the Light Force and the Dark Force. There is limited information available about them in the comics, but they are extensively documented in Kamar Taj. It is crucial to note that these items are still unclaimed. Many individuals have utilized their influence, but no one has ever dared to acquire both at once, as they are offered as a package deal. They ultimately defeated the individual who sought to acquire their power. The abilities that have been recorded from the Dark Force include intangibility and invisibility, matter absorption, energy absorption, shadow manifestation, teleportation, fear perception, and Dark Force absorption. Here are the recognized abilities of the Dark Force in comics. There are certain lesser-known facts about injuries sustained while using an item powered by Dark Force energy. These injuries can only be healed with the user's will or the assistance of a Light Force user. This ability has the potential to gradually erode an individual's sanity, but it can be counteracted and restored by a user with expertise in harnessing the power of Light Force. Manifests Dark Force weapons that can gradually erode an individual's sanity, a condition that can be counteracted by a Light Force user. Has the ability to rapidly drain someone's life force in order to heal injuries or extend their lifespan, in addition to occasionally granting individuals full control over umbrakinesis and the unique abilities that may accompany it. However, only individuals who have used the Dark Force for an extended period of time have been observed to possess it, provided that they have not suffered any mental instability due to prolonged exposure. The powers of the Light Force are light energy weapon projection, light blasts, hope perception, healing others at the expense of stamina. If stamina is used up, Life Force will be used instead. This can be sort of bypassed due to being able to turn stamina into Life Force. Granted, if they use a week's worth of stamina into Life Force, they will only get 2 days worth of Life Force. They can counter the insanity-inducing effects of the Dark Force, being able to heal most ailments to the extent of easily curing cancer, STDs, genetic defects. However, the user must have extensive knowledge of their own genetic structure and how it is supposed to be. It can even bring someone back from death like a true resurrection will. However, this can only be done if the user pays the amount of Life Force. They just need to pay the remaining years that person would have lived biologically. However, this process pissed off every single deity in charge of fate itself. When someone is brought back with it, fate changes to accommodate the change, which takes the control of fate-related deities, even time deities, and makes it near impossible to use their powers for a short time while it realigns itself. They found that someone had been resurrected. However, this was one of the times where the living tribunal appeared. He ruled that because the resurrection in question had an equivalent exchange type of deal, they were not to ever seek retribution, and even the cosmic entities got involved. Since it caused such a huge deal, Lord Chaos also decreed it to not seek retribution against the person who discovered it. Not understanding the consequences of what would follow, they tried it anyway. The end result was that they were nerfed to the point where they had to form groups between themselves in order to protect themselves. They pissed off a lot of other gods out, thereby messing with their lives. Unfortunately, some were actually smart about it and got away by not seeking retribution. The Greek fates, they kept all of their powers intact and their influence increased by the power vacuum left behind. The most important reason why I want the Light Force more than the Dark Force is simple. Aside for the Dark Force manipulation that the Ultima Ring gives me, N.A. the ring that has the powers of all 10 Makluan rings. The Light Force can be channeled into weapons or armor to kill the undead. In Marvel Zombies, I don't know how they managed to turn Tandy Bowen into a zombie due to the cleansing properties of the Light Force. The answer was simple once I thought more about it and asked the Ancient One about it. Someone has to know about the specific powers that the Light Force gives in order for some of those effects to kick in. It also gives full-blown photokinesis. I arrived in New Orleans, where the mine is located, and break into it as it is not really abandoned. I see people mining, and after a quick scan of their minds, it is easy to learn that they want to get access to both forces again. I quickly knock them out and put in memories of them working the full day and teleport them to their homes to work later. A look around, I see both forces near each other in a cave that was blocked by a pile of rocks that fell in. Good luck, say the girls, a bit nervous at what I am about to do before we slowly cut our connection to make sure they don't suffer what I am going to be going through. I phase into the cave and create shields independently from me in order to not cause an explosion, and immediately both forces begin moving towards me as I forcefully begin absorbing them into myself. I feel them trying to get into my mental shields as well as my soul. I scream in pain as they both fight for control over me. However, thanks to my adaptation and all energy absorption, I bring them to heal after a few hours of going back and forth. I, Naruto Uzumaki, Lord of the Phantom Zone, claim the Light Force and Dark Force dimensions as my own, I say as finally both forces finally begin to calm down into a docile state. I teleport to the zone as I feel energy building up inside. Goddammit, this fucking hurts. I scream as the energy begins to build up with my senses. It is easy to learn that my body is adapting to my new powers and status, but I don't let any energy seep out. Finally, as if an explosion happened inside of my body as the zone began to shake with lights and shadows appearing in it as all three dimensions are brought to exist together. A layer of energy surrounded me mixed with light force, dark force, zone, speed force, and crimson energies began to form around, and after a few minutes, the layer cracked as my body had undergone a transformation. I breathed in a huge breath after teleporting back to the cave. I materialized a mirror and finally saw my appearance. I am fucking ripped, I say to myself as my armor, which survived unscathed and was now being empowered due to it absorbing a lot of the energies that were in the zone, was sent back to storage. I have a fucking 8-pack and lost my swimmer's build, and thankfully I don't seem to have lost any speed. My features are more defined than before, and any imperfections, if there were any, are now gone. My eyes' pupils are black and white with a tiny bit of silver, and I feel stronger than before, I say as I make a grabbing motion and grab some atoms and squeeze as a nuclear explosion happens in the palm of my hand, which is contained as I absorb the radiation and open. Nothing happened to my hand at all. I lower my hand as my pinky finger moves fast and strong enough to cause a hole to appear at the top of the cave leading outside of the mine, and I can see it piercing the atmosphere. I quickly get out and repair any damages and disable the remaining shields and fly into the air. Time for the perfect sentry serum, I thought as I went over to the fortress, reaching it nearly instantly. I go to a door that leads to a pocket dimension where the repaired and enhanced progenitor is stored. I fly over to his chest as it opens, and I enter to find a place to hold even me down for a bit. A table similar to the one that was used on Steve Rogers, and a regular table with a box preserving and containing my only vials of the perfect serum, inserting them to their places. I take the rest of my clothes off, leaving me completely naked, and teleport both me and the Celestial into the zone. I cut of my absorption of blue sunlight. I insert the vials of the serum. I lay down on the table and straps and restraints close on me. The thing is made from the same materials as my sword, the same with the syringes as the serum flows from the vials into them. I relax my body and telepathically help the syringes pierce into me. I can feel it flowing in my body after a few seconds. The power of the serum could be seen moving around as I see my veins glowing as it finally reached my heart. Then, nothing, I realize I could not absorb the energy from the serum. Then I realized something. The serum is making my body adapted in order to take in its powers. Suddenly, I felt a warmth spread throughout my body as I began to glow golden, and then a black color, until finally an ethereal aura with black and white lightning began to surround me. As I instinctively knew that it was done, I waited 10 minutes for the chamber's door to finally open. I step out and see that I look the same, but I can feel it in my bones that I can change my shape to whatever I want. I can alter reality at my whim now. It all seems so manageable, so easy to control now, I whisper to myself as I revel in this feeling of power. Not even taking energy from my blue sun gave me such a feeling as I finally begin absorbing the energy from my blue sun, and I am rather surprised when I can barely feel it making me stronger. I teleport to Mercury with a thought and I am there. Then I go into the zone and go inside of my blue sun. Being at the center of it, I can tell that it only makes me stronger, as if I was walking on the surface of the sun. Suddenly, I can feel the zone shaking with power as I begin to see suns appearing in an instant. I know what is going on as I counted the suns appearing. The 1 million exploding suns. However, I can also feel that the zone is expanding, getting bigger for lack of a better word. In a blink, they all explode, as even then I don't feel that difference at all. I fly closer to one and see if I can absorb some of its energies, and nothing happens. Because they are all already mine, I say to myself as I feel a small distortion happen in the middle of the zone. I go there and see a note. Thanks for taking the 1 million suns I had run out of space. Finally, I can get to work on making a perfect Earth. Signed, Destroyer Darkmass. Did he really just throw the suns at me because he considered them trash? I say to myself, bewildered. Naruto Pav, I am currently in bed as it has just been 2 days since I used the perfect sentry serum. The girls really seem to like it as they are all cuddling with me as I am an inch taller in height. I feel the sun's rays hitting my face, but right now they don't do anything much for me at all. I have become too strong. I don't even need the sun anymore to power myself, which was a weakness in the short term. I slowly move around the girls and get out of bed and go to the kitchen to make breakfast. I don't need to eat, but I still enjoy it. I can at least make some food that doesn't have any conservatives or anything like that due to my senses being enhanced even further, making most foods taste terrible. Half an hour later, some of the girls begin tumbling down the stairs as Jean and Hera go down flying a foot above the ground, while Amora and Felicia walk with shaky legs, but they all have smiles on their faces. I quickly set the table and help them sit down to eat. So what are we gonna do today? I asked them, already knowing the answer. Sleep. They all said. I hung around with them until noon as they all took a nap, and then I just walked through one of the doors in my house that leads to the fortress after making them some food when they woke up. I go to another door, this one leading to a training area I created. I arrive at the middle of the room and begin experimenting with the light force and dark force. I summon a longsword made out of light and test it by giving it a few swings. I prefer Hanjo, I said to myself. It's nothing too special as I materialize a block of true adamantium and test it out by gently tapping it with the blade, and it heats up, but that doesn't turn orange at all. I bring out another sword made of dark force and slash it gently with the block. The same thing happens. I combine both of them and it finally does something when I slash it. It barely has a scratch, but the sheer fact that it can do so, it's a testament to their combined power. The sword disperses as I go on reviewing my strength level. When I used the serum, my kryptonian power set was increased greatly. There was such good compatibility between the serum and my body that exceeded my expectations. It was easy to getting those new levels of power under control. The hard part was getting everything else under control. My space and time manipulation powers were pain kick in whenever I even thought of doing something with them. But I managed to get them under control after a few years. From my perspective, I did swear to myself to be careful with time manipulation. I can reverse an object back into nothingness, ignoring multiple laws of existence, to aging them to dust, and even further. I can slow down time and even accelerate it. However, reversing time is far too dangerous for me. When I tried to reverse time, it felt like I was a human trying to force a tsunami to go back every time I did it. The Ancient One prevented me from going further, and I found out why. The Time Stone is capable of reversing time for a solar system easily, due to it being both a law and a rule in crystal form. The Time Stone itself is the law of time. When all 6 stones are brought together, the laws become rules. This means that having all 6 makes you the most powerful. Not according to the studies in Kamar Taj on the Time Stone. The laws and rules are tied to the universe that has the stones or their different variants of them. This means if I get energy from them and manage to fully learn the laws and later on the rules, I would be a sentient infinity gauntlet myself for this universe only. In order to gain a comprehensive understanding, a thorough study of all the relevant information is required. However, the following is a summary of what I currently know, although it may not be entirely accurate. Does Captain Marvel retain her powers when she crosses into another universe in the MCU? I'm unsure. I soar through the sky, observing my surroundings with a fresh perspective. I suppose this is how Heimdall perceives things, I quietly murmur to myself. I have a profound understanding of the vastness of the cosmos and my own insignificance within it. This realization occurred when I first utilized my reality alteration abilities. It goes beyond manipulating space, far beyond just that. Mastering all aspects of reality, encompassing not only space and time, but every aspect. Robert Reynolds was unaware of his full potential. What was said about Wanda Maximoff was undeniably accurate. If the Sentry followed the same path as Wanda, or if Void managed to manipulate both Robert and Sentry, the resulting destruction might pale in comparison to what Superboy Prime did in the DC multiverse. Sentry was a superhero from the Golden Age of comics who transitioned into the Silver Age as an analog of Superman. Both Superman from the Golden Age and Silver Age No, he was expected to portray the Superman for the role of Superman. With an expanded repertoire of abilities, however, they made a mistake. From my perspective, the powers I acquired from the serum have proven to be flawless. However, Robert Reynolds' life has been plagued with difficulties from the very start. It is remarkable to see the immense strength I gained from the serum, as well as the considerable power that Robert obtained from an incomplete version. My experience was satisfactory. He did not. As per a comic, Void mentioned that it had the potential to be utilized by anyone. Nevertheless, Scout the Sentry's former sidekick disproved this notion. During my investigations, I had the opportunity to inquire with Sidorak regarding Destroyer Darkmass. I have come to the realization that Destroyer Darkmass possesses even greater power than I initially anticipated. The suns that Destroyer Darkmass provided me, along with the pocket dimension, greatly enhanced the zone's capacity to handle the immense power of the exploding suns. It was a valuable addition to our arsenal. Robert was destined to be a symbol of strength and inspiration, much like the legendary Superman. However, in this world of Marvel, heroes seem to be constantly self-destructing in every possible way. They often engage in unnecessary conflicts or refuse to assist their fellow heroes. Similar to many of the Avengers, the X-Men were left without assistance when they were in dire need. What on earth is the main universe Doctor Strange doing with his magical abilities? Why are the Illuminati so unintelligent? One might wonder. It's hard to believe that none of them attempted to propose utilizing the Infinity Stones to assist their friends. Reed could have considered utilizing them to grant the Thing mastery over his abilities, a skill he gradually and steadily developed. Tony could have utilized it to acquire an endless supply of rare materials. They do not possess the disadvantage of causing harm to the user. Unpleasant individual, I feel like my mind has been tampered with, either by someone else or by my own doing. I was about to teleport myself to Kamar Taj, but then I paused, realizing that I might have developed a resistance to the Time Stone. I efficiently teleport to Morag and promptly send out a signal to my Eradicator, instructing it to gather various forms of radiation while I swiftly scan the planet and locate the stone. I effortlessly bring it closer to me using my telekinetic abilities, carefully encasing the orb in a protective shield. Within moments, it is positioned right in front of me, and I swiftly tear it open. I notice the Power Stone and confidently grasp it, unaffected by its power. Oh no, I mutter to myself, realizing what happened. I am in possession of the stone and I am able to sense its immense power, yet it does not cause me any harm. When the stones are used, they can be controlled by the user's thoughts, as long as they possess the appropriate stone. The stories about the stones, claiming that they will destroy those who lack the necessary power to wield them, are simply not true. In the comics and animated versions, the user is often corrupted instead of maintaining a professional demeanor. In my previous experience, I still held this belief, which is why my mental defenses allowed it initially. However, now that I am aware of this, I examine my hand, but to no avail. I then proceed to close my hand and send it to the zone. A perspective from someone soon. My dear, I will handle it for you in the near future. Stay tuned for more. And that's a wrap for now. Thank you so much for tuning into this incredible video. If you absolutely loved it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for even more amazing content coming your way.